Commissioners Transportation Workshop for Tuesday, April 26, 2022 to order. I'd like to welcome everybody here this morning. We'll begin the meeting with an invocation given by myself and the pledge by Commissioner Harvey. Please stand if you're able. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this glorious day and all the blessings in it, Father God. We just thank you for the opportunity to gather here, Father God, as commissioners and staff and concerned citizens, Father God. Just use this information presented to us to make the best decisions for our citizens in Putnam County. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Join me in the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Commissioner Harvey. Commissioners, we'll move down to the second item, which is public comment on agenda items. This portion of the agenda is designed to allow citizens an opportunity to bring matters to the attention of the board. It is not reasonable to expect that the board will engage in debate or deliberation on matters on which the board has received no prior information as part of the agenda. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. We'd like for you to fill out a comment card. Do we have anybody who would like to speak on agenda items? Okay. I couldn't hear. On the particular MSBU. Okay.
Asking if she could speak. You're talking about St. John's Harbor?
No, I'm from Acosta Creek, and I would like to speak about the
It's not on the agenda.
when it's appropriate.
Okay, we'll do that in closing comments or closing miscellaneous comments. Okay. Okay, so seeing none, we'll close the public comment portion on agenda items. We'll move down to our Board of County Commission workshop, and we'll move to item A, administrative quarterly budget reports. Ms. Julianne.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I used the similar structure as to what we did with our first quarter budget reports. So as you will see in your packets, this would be our second quarter. So effective March 31st, we are officially at half of our year. As I have reviewed with you guys before, we have a variable budget cycle, so we are not fixed, i.e. if you take 1 month or 1 quarter of our year, you cannot multiply that times 12 and or by 4 and get an equal value for each month. We're cyclical. Most of our revenues come in advance, and then most of our expenditures go out at the end, like most things. But if you'll look at a brief overview of what you have before you, for the general fund, we've collected 77% of revenue, and expense-wise, we're at 44% of the expenditure budget. There is an accounting for the current general fund reserves there at the bottom, which does include some of the pending items that have been discussed. Again, this was effective March 31st, so anything we've done from that point forward is not reflective in this budget report. Moving to the transportation fund, you will see we're at 42% of revenues collected. Again, like we've talked about, these are variable numbers. So the first item there, you're seeing charges for service, you're actually seeing a $0 collected in revenue. That's because that's FDOT lump sum payments that usually come at the end of the year. So again, like we've talked about in most things, you cannot see trends in our budget like you would in a normal business budget. We're going to see anomalies like this. So 42% of revenues and 44% of expenditures. Again, the reserves are outlined there below. Moving on to the fire fund, they also are much like our ad valorem. Their taxes are generally collected mostly up front. We're at 80% revenue collection and 39% of our expenditure budget. There are, again, the revenues there at the bottom for you. And the sanitation fund, 64% of the revenues have been collected and 11% of their expenditure budget. And again, then your your sanitation fund reserves. And as we did in the first quarter, the East Putnam Regional Water, we have 55% of our revenues that we've budgeted and 51% of our expenditures that have flown out. And then, of course, the reserves there, obviously, you don't have any in your water fund. That's just a snippet of our most popular funds that we've been reviewing throughout the year. And I'll be happy to answer anything that you have for those funds.
Okay, thank you, Julianne. Commissioner Turner?
Yes, thank you. Do you have any concern on the shortfall revenues with us collecting most of our revenues up front on the different funds? Do you have any concerns, or is that just the portion of the revenues that should come in the second half of the year, basically?
Yep, I don't have any concerns. We're typically, again, because this is the first year we've looked at it, it could be alarming for you to see that I only have a little bit of revenue for the year collected, but it is not alarming on my end. I believe our revenue projections are gonna be much like years past and/or possibly even a little bit above what we've budgeted for.
Good, that's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Julianne, I greatly appreciate this, and I fully understand if I was in business, I would be doing things a lot different, timing it by 4, dividing that by 12 months. I get that, but we don't do that, even though we say out there in the community that we ran a business and this will be beneficial to the government. It's a whole different accounting schedule.
Absolutely.
I wish my business would have collected 77% up front. It would have made life a whole lot different for me, but it didn't happen that way.
Right.
Question I have, though, on the reserve balances for, I guess I don't want to say general fund because it's more of our sales tax, but do we identify the projects that we're dedicated to? Kind of like we carry like the animal shelter, we're carrying 700,000.
You're talking about BPP funds?
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yes,
talking
sir, absolutely. The BPP projects are outlaid in the budget in the beginning of the cycle. And I can send that over to you if you'd like to see the different allocations for them.
I know those. I was just saying based on, because if you
So
look at.
BPP is not in here.
Right.
You're not seeing your BPP dollars. So the only thing that we are accounting for reserves and like are things that we've tentatively said at the beginning of the year, we're gonna spend general fund reserves on this. And I do try to make a note of that. So i.e. Inspired Tech was one, and it's probably a neat one to talk about right now. It gives you a really good example of governmental accounting. We said in the beginning of the year, it was a month-to-month contract, but we were gonna take from general fund reserves for each month of that. So in theory, at the beginning of the year, I knew that general fund reserves was gonna need 12 months of that. Well, as we have discussed in the last few months, we actually didn't need all 12 months of that, and we've reallocated those dollars. But when we closed the books on March 31st, that hadn't happened yet. So as I've tried to explain 100 times, budget moves every single day. So what we did was only the things that we've kind of said, this is gonna be a potential from general fund reserves, and those are kind of allocated out there. The clerk obviously has some capital projects, which y'all gave him back a line that's just reserved for his projects. And then the only other thing in the general fund that we have potentially talked about was the purchase of the GB property. Everything else that's been done or wasn't planned as of the close of March 31st hasn't hit those reserves. And the same would be for your BPP Better Place Plan reserves as well.
I just don't want to walk out going, yeah, we got almost $12 million. And we
You
really
don't. No, absolutely. And as I also put a note there, remember that statute requires you to have 10% of your reoccurring operating revenue that you cannot touch. It's a restricted reserve. And then, of course, FAOA recommends 16.67%. So there has to be dollars in the bank in case a hurricane blows through town, in case a pandemic comes, in case all of those things that the counties are responsible for ensuring that citizens are able to continue to operate life.
Thank you very much for
Yes,
this
sir.
report. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, all right, thank you, Julianne.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll move down to item B. Mr. Troxel. And Ms. Dilda.
No, I let you.
Getting everything ready here. This first one has to do with the St. John's Harbor, number 3, the MSBU. We did a petition letter, depending on determining if they wanted to go do a paving MSBU with that. So with that, 391 letters were sent out to parcel owners, and 152 were returned. And the results were that 59% voted no, and 41% voted yes to do a paving MSBU here at St. John's Harbor, number 3. So with that, we're recommending that it's not going to happen because we didn't get the preponderance. It's 50% plus one is what the board came up with paving MSBU's, but that was our take, and the letter was the one that behind it is what was sent out to all the residents of the MSBU.
Okay, so of the votes, no was 59% and 41 was in favor. Of the votes.
Of the votes that we got back, yes,
That got
sir.
back, which was 152 out of 391.
That's correct. Yep.
Okay, commissioners, any discussion on this? I guess with what we have put forth of 50% plus one, it didn't make that.
We tried to make it easier and easier and easier to meet this threshold. You know, we'd wanted to say that all votes that they didn't send back were yes votes, but we were advised that that was not possible to do that. And so we had to go to revert back to this. And instead, it used to be as like 60% or something back 5 years ago. And they made it now to where it's 50% plus one, and it still failed by 59 to 41%. So I don't see where we can move forward with it.
Mr. Harvey?
You know, Mr. Chairman, thank you. The other concerning thing is, same with any election, if you really look at it, 391 letters, 152 were returned. Barely 40-something% of the people responded. You know, you just kind of wonder, where you at? Why ain't you, one way or the other, just say what you want to say, do what you want to do. But, you know, I mean, the poor people are sitting there having to deal with roads that they've been trying to take care of themselves for a long time, and here we are. And maybe, you know, maybe going forward, we've had the conversation about what the county could participate, at what level. I don't know what that conversation will ever get off the ground to a number, but maybe that would help entice some people to respond. But again, that's a pitiful response rate right there. Even the vote, I mean, the vote's pitiful enough, but then the response rate is, and it just bothers me that people look at their community and surely they want a lot, but they don't want to respond to yes or no. All they got to do is tell us. We're willing to do what they want us to do to a certain extent. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Adamsack?
Yeah, and I guess for the second half of what you were saying there, Commissioner Harvey, I'm of the impression, at least the MSBU's, that in my geography as the District 5 Commissioner, for me to consider to participate, I think I'd have to get a yes, one of these, to be honest. I don't think you'd want to put it out there that, hey, we'll participate 50%.
No.
And so I just want to be clear, that's what I've been trying to push for, is that we get this back saying, yeah, 50% plus one, and then see, and I think we need to put some criteria, if we get there, at least I would put criteria on it for the district, my district, because I'm assuming we would replace our dirt to pave with those roads if we chose to do that. I don't think it would be fair for me to say, let's take your district's dirt to pave and move over to mine because they're going to participate. But I would want them to be able to get this to pass their group, and then I also would want it to be based on the road score, right? So I mean, maybe if I had someone that scored 30 something, I'd want to participate more because it gets it off of our list of needs for both, not just because they want it, but also for public works, for emergency services, all that other. That's why it scores high, is because those other groups said it needs it. So yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I just wanted to make sure I iterated that was my view of it.
Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Adams. I don't disagree with that at all. I do want to caution, though, I say that a lot here lately, but when we look at MSBU roads, they're not going to score as high as non-MSBU roads because they're maintained on a monthly basis most of the time, where county roads are not maintained on that basis. So, I was meeting with a group of people over in the Violet Church Lake area, and their roads scored very minimal, but they want a paving part. But it's because the MSBU maintains that on a monthly basis. They're not going to score high. They're never going to score high because of that, unless you just quit doing the work and then let the score go up. And that's not acceptable business practice either. So, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Adams, I may have missed something, but as far as the dirt to pave, if this MSBU went forward, it would not affect any dirt to pave in any district. Other than, like I said, it would take it off the list because they chose to pave it in a MSBU, correct?
That's my understanding, because I believe that's what happened in the last.
It wouldn't put
paving.
one ahead of somebody or replace
Because they're-
one.
They're
No, no,
actually,
I was
it would-
saying if we were doing the cost share thing.
Yeah, the cost share.
Okay, okay,
That's if we chose to go down, which is, I think, what Commissioner Harvey was referring
okay,
to.
all right. So,
Mr. Chairman, you mind if I?
Commissioner Harvey, yeah.
You'd almost have to have a different pot of money if you're gonna look at cost share with that, because we still, again, you're right, Mr. Allen, it wouldn't be fair to take from you to give to another commissioner's district. Even though we're all county commissioners, you'd almost need, if we're gonna have that conversation, it would be a separate pot of money that would come out of, if we entice them. I don't know about that. I don't know where that would come from.
Okay. Mike, what do you need from us? Do we need to vote on this? I mean, it looks like with the criteria we set, it does not meet that. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't
So
think you need to
see how
vote
we
on
can
it.
move this forward to the next step. Now, to me, it's a shame because I know some people in this audience, I think from this area that probably voted yes to do this. And it got shut, it's gonna get shut down before you even get to the point where you knew how much it was gonna cost you, right? You know, so I don't know where we go from here, as far as for them, you know, hopefully the MSBU that they're paying for their grading will be up to par. You keep,
That's another
I might break tradition, I want you to come up front, I just wanna hear, not you, the big guy.
Tony.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay. I just want to give you a couple minutes to hear your opinion. You live out there and you've been
Yeah.
dealing with this, okay?
Okay.
I understand it. I don't have to pay MSBU. I have to maintain my own road. And it costs a few $100s a year for me to do that. So I mean, I just want your opinion, since we're having this conversation. It's about the 10th time we've been in here about this particular one. I'm not making fun of this. I mean, this is something that we want to help fix, so.
Well, I appreciate that.
State your name and address for the record, if you would.
Anthony Gentry, 163 Bonita Drive. I think the frustration is that it goes back many years, but the time I've been out there is 3.5. And there was a point in time where a previous lawyer for the commission said one thing about getting votes, and now it's different this time. The letter that just went out for people to vote on just said, do you want the roads paved or not? Didn't say anything about cost. Didn't say that the cost just to maintain them is already going to go up, and nobody's even been told what that percentage or cost value is, as well, or even more so, a comparison of that cost to what could be a paved cost. So I think the frustration is the discussions here keep going back and forth over not knowing all the facts. And I don't know what other simpler way to say it other than people are just tired of hearing that the ones that live there, most of them want the roads paved. We're tired of potholes tearing up our vehicles. Most people out there have mostly decent homes, nice vehicles, and it's a wear and tear. And the ones that are saying no either pay no taxes whatsoever and don't want to have anybody telling them that anything, even the MSBU fee is going to go up, which it is, or they live not even in Florida and are sending back no votes because what do they care if it's paved or not? So I don't know what else to say, but we are very frustrated about it. And for it to go from one set of commissioners, a different attorney, whenever different attorneys come in and so forth, is just really wrong. So if you have any questions for me, I'll answer them.
Okay. Thank you. We go to Commissioner comments again. Commissioner Rawls?
I apologize for being late. I was dealing with another situation on Lundy Road. So I share your frustration, and I've spoken at meetings about this, and he's right. The county has not spoken with a unified voice ever. It's been catch as catch can. One public works director says one thing. At one point, Matt Reynolds went out and met with them and gave a price. The number was ridiculously high. We checked it and found out that his math was off a little bit. Another attorney says something else. They've been told and told and told, but at the last meeting, and I was really concerned when Mr. Gentry told me that the letters had gone out and did not include the cost, because what we discussed was, what if you take a look at the annual cost of grading versus the annual cost to pave over a 30-year basis? And at one point, the commission talked about chipping in half the money, but if you don't have that number, in all reality, you could be looking at less dollars per year for the homeowners to have a paved road, which takes that burden off of us to have to maintain. But without all the information, he's absolutely correct. You're setting it up for, it's almost like we're trying to sink the ship on purpose because of the way we present this.
Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Gentry, I do apologize, but we did try to, this board has tried to come up with a standard, and we've really worked very hard on that. And I think with Commissioner Amzak earlier, this was a see if everybody's interested before we make an offer of something, and whatever that offer, if that offer even exists. So I guess my point is, now that you know who the 152 people who returned, maybe, please forgive me, don't throw stones at me, and I'll help you with the mail price if you need it. Maybe it's time to start contacting those and saying, can we talk? Maybe there's an avenue there to go, here's what the commission's talking about. Here's what the cost of a dirt to pave is, $550,000 roughly a mile. I don't know. Here's how many lots. It's not hard to do the math. I mean, it's just not. And maybe that's the scenario. But my understanding from what we wanted to do was to get interest before we start trying to spend a whole lot of staff time on dealing with, if no one's interested, there's no sense going forward at that point. But I don't disagree with Commissioner Rawls extensively here. I'm going to say they weren't given all the information either, but I don't know if it's up to us to do that. I don't know if it's that, I don't know if we can do that. I don't know if we haven't, this board has not set a policy on trying to participate inside the MSBU at all right now. So that's not even leverage on the table. It can be a conversation around the kitchen table. It could be one in your living room, but it can't be, yeah, the board's going to do 50% of the cost, because we haven't decided any of that yet. So is it something that you might, now that it's public knowledge who the 152 people are, maybe it's time to contact those and say, we might only need 10 or 15 more people to come and say we're interested in something. I don't know.
Well,
Thank
it
you,
was
Mr.
my
Chairman.
understanding in one of the meetings that, I believe it was Mr. Commando said, that the commission doesn't even need our votes. You guys can just decide it. So I don't know why that becomes an issue when, like I said, half the people that own property there may have not ever even seen their property in the last 10, 15, 20 years. So why would they care if anybody wants a paved road? Plus, what about property values? Paved roads mean more property value, more property taxes. So.
Okay, Commissioner Adamsack?
I understand that, and wasn't what I was even going to say, but that our attorney said that we can do it. I think it would be set a really bad precedent. I know that's not what you want to hear, but if we went around and started saying that we're going to pave this MSBU, every MSBU in the county would want us to do that for them, and we can't afford to do that. I mean, it's not possible. So I'm all for. I think we made it easier than the 60%. And the other way that it was happening, where we didn't count the votes that didn't come in and everything else we did, to do it this way, to only count the votes that come in, 50% plus one. I do think the community bears some responsibility to get the votes. I mean, it's a campaign. I think I kind of agree with what Commissioner Harvey's saying to a point, that you need to be able to find out who those people are, explain it to them, and put those terms to it. We can't put a quote to something that hasn't been engineered and hasn't been, we can give you generals, you have that. We've said what the general is, around 500 grand a mile, 50 times up here, but that doesn't mean that that project's gonna come in at that. So then if we go out, and we put something in writing that says it's gonna be $500,000 a mile, and it comes at 620, we're gonna have a whole lot of pissed off people. And then if we have something that comes in at 420, we're gonna have some happy people, but we can't put that out there like that. I don't see, maybe we could adjust the way we word this. Again, this is the first swag at this. But I don't see how we could put a cost at this stage of the game because we're not there.
Well, this didn't even have the cost of what the MSBU contract is gonna go up, and you know that one. So,
Okay. Commissioner Rawls?
I think my last comment is, for this remaining year, we have virtually no money left, and we haven't even started grading for the winter, or for the summer, or even close to the fall. We have potholes that are worse than they've ever been out there right now, so now what?
I thought we were setting money aside for that earlier.
I thought we decided to participate in that MSBU.
I think we were
Just discussed
we were
it,
gonna
didn't
fund
come up
that.
with something?
The board discussed it, but Public Works did not have numbers at that time, and it was asked to bring back, and they are still working on bringing you back that information.
Okay. Commissioner Rawls?
So I'm not sure if the point has really been driven home yet to their frustration. Mr. Gentry's correct. Under 125, the county commission can impose the MSBU unilaterally. We don't have to have quote-unquote participation in it. That we have that autonomy. But the biggest failure here, and it was discussed at the meeting, and this is why I'm personally frustrated, is there was numbers tossed around. We know what the proposed MSBU amount would be per parcel. It was supposed to be checked against what it would cost to pave it. With or without participation from Putnam County, a number could be, we could come up with that number. If that was presented in the right way, if you presented me a piece of paper and said, you want to have your road paved and I'm paying for having my road graded, I'm only paying $100 a year? Nope. Nope, not at all. I'll just keep paying the $100 a year. But what we didn't tell them was, by the way, you're going to be stuck with this amount of money minimum because this is the new MSBU proposed going forward. Or you could pay this amount if you want to go full paved. And if the county participated at whatever level, but we didn't do that. It was just a yes or no question. And I think that we did a disservice by doing that, and we need to figure out a way to unring the bell and make this right with the citizens out there. They have, I mean, if I lived out there, I would be frustrated just like you are. I'm telling you right now, and I don't live there and I'm frustrated. So I don't know what we can do to help this along, but at some point, we do need to come up with a policy on how we look and how we present the information going forward, because the way this was presented was, as soon as I heard about this, I thought this is going to be a disaster. I know how I would vote on that if I got that letter. It would have been nope.
And if I could, to Paul's point,
No, I just want to have a conversation about it. We're fixing to wrap it up. Go ahead and make your comments, and then we've got one more commissioner comment, and we'll move forward. Go ahead.
well, I think it's, Jeff kind of hinted at it, that not knowing the cost was the big difference in this letter. And I actually lost my train of thought, so I'm sorry.
Okay, Commissioner Turner, then we'll
Okay,
move on.
Some of these numbers that we're asking for today haven't been developed yet. We don't know what it's gonna cost to do this project, and to go in to design the project and put in the time and spend the money on engineering and do everything to try to develop a project, that's just not feasible. Especially, you've got to do this in a fair and unique manner. I realize that the people are here today are the people that are for getting the roads paved, but the other percentage of people that didn't show up, didn't vote for this, you've got to do this by a majority. I just don't see any other fair way to do it. I just truly don't. We started out 5 years ago, you had to have 60%. And we dropped that down to 50% plus one, trying to make it easier to get paving in the roads. We even went as far as to say, if you don't send anything back, that counts as a yes vote. Well, we were told that's against the law to do that, so we had to rescind that part of it. So that's when we made it 50% plus one. if I was everybody doesn't want a paved road in this county. I guarantee you that there's a lot of people that when we pave their road, they actually get upset about it when we pave their road, if they're on the regular dirt to pave list. Not 50%, but there's more than you would ever imagine that just don't want a paved road in front of their house. So you've got to do this by a percentage to make it fair. My question would be, have you started developing your numbers yet for the conversation we had last time about this, that we had a shortfall in MSBU and we didn't have time to make it up before the next billing cycle or when it was done? Do you have any idea what that's gonna come out to be yet? And I guess my second question would be, do they have enough money to keep their roads operating at the present time while we make this decision?
We have a basic cost, so it would cost if we were to do normal maintenance across the road. However, we didn't get it in time to meet this meeting. Excuse me. With that said, we are looking at, right now they have $0 left in their account to do maintenance, right?
They can't even grade the roads while we're trying to get the information for them, is that what we're saying? Well, how much would we need to put in to keep them operating for a couple of months while, I think it's unacceptable here, this commissioner thinks it's unacceptable that we're gonna just stop maintenance on the deal while we're coming up with this additional information. So, I would be me speaking, I would be interested in trying to come up with the funds. We know how much it's gonna cost for a year, correct? We know how much money they have, which is all gone. So we should be able to determine how much a month it is to go in there and maintain the roads in this subdivision where the shortfall is. Do we have any ballpark idea what it would cost to keep this going for a couple of months while we come up with a solution instead of them just saying, well, I'm sorry, we're not gonna grade the roads anymore, we're out of money? How much would it be a month? Is it 10,000?
No,
It's
20,000?
couple thousand.
Less than 10?
Yeah.
So,
You have any idea?
I think, if I remember right, it was like 56,000 to do the basic minimum that we put out in the bid for the remainder of the year. Is $56,000.
Okay.
Exactly. So that's what, that's
Why
why it's not on the
just said for a
agenda
couple-
right now,
for a
because
couple-
we had
He
to
said
do-
basic maintenance for a couple of months.
Hang on a second, hang on a
listen to
second.
me.
Commissioner Turner, are you done?
okay, so basically, if it's 56,000 a year to to maintain the roads at the minimum level, which is what I'm assuming they've done up to this point, is maintain roads at a minimum level, is
No.
that correct?
No.
That's only for the remainder of this fiscal year, so we're referencing potentially 4 to 5 months, so not for a whole annual year.
So 56,000 additional dollars between now and the end of the year just to keep the roads maintained?
No, the end of the fiscal year,
Fiscal year,
Through October.
October 1st.
October 1st would be,
May, June, July, 10,000 a month, okay, so that's what it is, what I said it is, then 10,000 a month for basic services.
That's based on the
What-
new.
What's missing here, though, is what you don't know is the roads are really bad bad shape.
No,
And
I
ditch,
rode down them a
right.
week and a half ago.
The ditches are full of trees, and you're including all that.
Yeah, it's.
Right. So we don't have to do that. That's not basic maintenance.
let Commissioner Turner
Actually,
finish
I
and I'll
wanna
go
hear
with you,
that too,
Jeff.
if you don't mind,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
I thought what you were getting to was just to do a basic road to get them passable right now, so
That's
they're
what
not
I
turning the
want to
vehicles.
know. What have they been doing in the past that's
Right.
been minimum maintenance, not what it would take to make the thing a super highway with additional monies added. So, basic minimum service to maintain the roads is 56,000
Yes,
from
sir,
now
that
to the
is
end
for
of the year.
grading, mowing, and
Okay, I'd like to know the reason, because I'm fixing
Well,
to
wait a
try to
minute.
fix this,
All
and
right.
I can't do it
All right,
without
let-
all the information,
all right.
so.
Let,
what's the
let
reason,
her
Dilma?
finish.
the rest of the month for grading, mowing, and material. That is the cost he just provided to you, not for anything additional, not going and clearing a bunch of trees or anything of that nature.
So is that what we've done this year to date until we ran out of money? Then the same thing would be about
Correct.
10,000 a month to get us through the end of the year.
And the only thing they've actually done is grading up to this point, sir.
Okay, they haven't done any material, or they haven't done just grading,
Correct.
okay? What'd you say, Commissioner?
He's about
He-
to
he's
blow
biting
up.
at the chomp.
I actually want to hear what they have to say before I try to fix this, Mr.
That's
Chairman.
fine.
So I'll mash my button again and go back after
All right,
them.
Commissioner Harvey, then we got Commissioner Rawls.
Okay, we need to take into account that it was we're looking at a new budget. And we also know that the contractor didn't want to go out there that far. We know there's an aggravation fee attached to that. But I'm gonna say this. The county, it does not cost the county, but Mike, you gave me a price one time about $180 a mile. Let's just say $200 a mile. How many miles is in that MSB?
4.3.
4.3. So you're looking at $800, maybe $1,000, okay? Right? And we have how many more months left in the fiscal year, 5, 6? So we're looking, if the county went in there and just graded basically on our dime, because we're gonna spend money regardless. Either we're gonna give them money, the MSBU money, or we're gonna do the work. One or the other is gonna happen. It'd be cheaper for us to do the grading alone. We're already out in that area, might be $200 a mile. Be cheaper for us to do that than to give the MSBU money at this point. Thank you, Mr. Turner. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Rawls?
All right. So I think what's good now is that the commission's starting to hear what the problem is. So now we're looking at a $120,000 a year grading contract. If that was a paved road, what would that look like if that was extrapolated over 20 to 30 years? If it was financed and paid for? And this is their frustration, is they don't want to pay that $120,000 a year to grade the roads to the level they are now, or what they could, even if they were super highways, they're still dirt roads at the end of the day, and every time it rains, you have a problem. So if you took that 120,000 and you multiplied that out times 20 years, now you're in almost 2.5 million, and the question is, what does that buy? And then if you leverage that in the form of a letter to the folks and say, for the nifty amount of this number of dollars, and if the county commission could see its way into helping out with that as far as chipping in a little bit, it may drive the number down to where it's less to pave it than it is to grade it. That's the point.
Commissioner Turner?
Okay, yes, Mr. Chairman. How far would it set us back if we just went out and maintained it the rest of the year until we got the new budget cycle going for their MSBU for basic maintenance grading, just to keep the thing going, put in some material? How far would it set back the rest of your schedule? Is it something you could fit in? I mean, I know we don't want to, Mike, I get it, but if it's gonna cost $10,000 a month for us to pay the contractor to do it, but it's gonna cost us $3,000 a month to go out there and do it ourselves, then we may not have a choice here other than the county needs to go take that road and maintain it for the rest of this year.
I'm just saying, I know I cannot maintain it on a monthly basis. There's just no way. I've got, I'm down a grader operator, so I only have 5 for the whole county, and we got 1,000 miles of dirt road out there, not including, well, that is including the MSP.
Well, we don't really maintain any other roads, even our class 1 roads on a monthly basis.
No.
For 5 to 6 weeks,
Right.
Correct.
sometimes if we get a bunch of rain.
That's a good point, yeah.
7 or 8 weeks.
Correct.
To get a grading cycle through the county. So I'm just saying, if we fit them in on the same service, on the same rotation as we would the rest of the county,
It would slow those down by about a day or two, but when you do that, then it just compounds as you go throughout the year, but
and,
yes.
But sometimes extreme times demand extreme measures, and this might be one of those times. I have a hard time, I really have a hard time as a commissioner putting more tax dollars towards this than what we put towards all Class A roads in the county that we already maintain. So just to fit them in the cycle and maintain them just like we were doing it instead of through an MSBU, and that would give us time to try to find out what dollars were. It would give them time at that point to be able to, if they wanted to take the initiative to send out letters trying to come up with numbers. I don't see how you could, because it'd be just an absolute guess at this point on numbers. But it would give them time to do that, and the roads would be maintained somewhat. So I think that's gonna be our solution, or at least for now, is that we try to add these roads into the county's maintenance schedule, and they get the same maintenance that any other Class A dirt road would get in the county and that will give us where the roads are maintained between now and the roads will be maintained between now and the new MSBU cycle, at which time we can try to come up with the money at that time. And once, evidently we have some numbers available, because you just came up with 56,000 for the rest of the year. So if you take that and figure it how much it would be a month, it might be that the people, if they wanted to take the initiative to send out a letter saying, okay, our MSBU next year is projected to go up to X, in the neighborhood of X. We can probably get a road paved somewhere in the neighborhood of X. I mean, we know about how much it is a mile. And you could even put in the letter, these are absolute best guess at this time. And then people, I know that if I had a lot out there and you sent me a letter and I didn't mind a dirt road, and you sent me a letter saying it's gonna cost you more money, but we wanna pave the road, I don't know how I'd go one way or the other. But if you sent me the letter like Mr. Gentry said a minute ago, that you know, it's gonna cost you, and I'm winging these numbers straight out of the air, but it'll cost you $800 a year for an MSBU, or for $900 a year for the next 30 years, you can have paved roads, and it'll be real nice. Tax base probably go up. Everything will be nice. So it may be that you could get there, but they need time to get there, and you can't, and they're out of money, and they have no way to do the roads. I don't see anywhere we can go here except for just saying we're gonna take that MSBU into the county's maintenance system for the rest of this year until we can figure out how much they need, and then by then they can figure out how much it's gonna cost everybody, and if they wanna try to go for a paved MSBU. I don't see another option myself.
Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Turner, I agree with you. I think that's, I did the quick math. It looks like 3.4 times by the end of the fiscal year that you'd be grading if you did it on a 6-week basis. If you're looking at $1,000 to do it, 2,000, whatever, you're looking at between $3,500 and $6,000. Mr. Gentry, I do want to say something here. I do know the numbers. If you had 152 people that responded, you need 77 people to be in the affirmative. You got 63 yeses, so you only need to know 14. It's public record who sent those back. So you could easily find out who the 14 you need and have the conversation like Commissioner Turner just said, maybe in your house, maybe on the side of the road or whatever, and go, if I'd have known that, I would have voted this way, you know, and maybe that's the conversation, because I agree. That's how we did it in front of my house before Better Place Plan. We all said, we're on a grading MSBU, we want a paving, we'll spend the $200 a year for so many years. The wear and tear of our car alone will pay for that road, and the road's still standing today, with the exception we did have to fix it because it had flooding issues, but that's irregardless. But, so you do know that. You're only talking 14 people, and I think you can find those people, and that's public knowledge. Thank you.
Commissioner Rawls?
Mike, what happened to the land planners that we ordered?
I didn't hear you.
The land planners.
We have box blades currently, yeah.
I was told we bought land planners the year I got elected, that we bought 4 land planners, not box blades. There's a big difference.
Not that I know of.
Bought 5 of them.
We have box blades.
Bought at least
Land planners. You can't mistake one for the other.
Yeah, they're
That was
not,
before I got here. I
kind of
don't,
like a box blade, except it has.
They're about this
has-
tall.
Yeah, they're about this tall. We bought them to use our excuse me.
Well, no, go ahead.
We bought them to use during the winter time, behind.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we had to force Preston
To
If you
do it. He
remember,
didn't-
didn't want to
he
do it.
didn't
I
wanna
don't
do
know
it.
that he ever used them. So if you look somewhere out in the back where there's high weeds, they're probably out in them weeds somewhere. They're brand spanking new, road levelers is they're called, road levelers.
Mike, you remember,
Land plan,
remember me talking to you about
Right.
that, because I said those are the ones that specifically would work, it worked really well in East
Small
River
roads.
Park on
Yeah.
the smaller roads, because they're less evasive than, you need the grader every once in a
a
while,
lot
but
faster.
they used them a few times. I think you used them, I think when you got there, maybe at the end of Press's
Yeah,
tenure here.
we
but-
have box, what I call box blade, but it's, we
box
got like
blade will
6
make a
of them.
mess.
Same thing.
It's a leveling blade is what it is. So,
It's just, and it's got 2 bars going across at an
Yeah.
angle.
Yeah, like,
that's
it's like
it.
2 pieces of angler and turn upside down,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So
And
if we had one of those in the greater Boswick area, in the metropolis of Boswick, where we keep the tractor, that might be a quicker, simpler solution to getting these things graded. Once we go in and fill and grade the first time, then the next time could be, I know you're thinking, well, we gotta mow, you gotta take a tractor out of service, but I know what you're, I know,
That's
I know,
exactly what
I
I'm
know,
thinking,
I know
sir.
what you're, I know where you're going, I understand, but, and then another solution that might be quick and dirty on this would be to send a Harley rake in there with material. I don't know that, to me, we reach for the biggest hammer we can find in the toolbox, when sometimes all you need is just a little old ball peen hammer.
Oh, sir, I don't disagree with you, but you need equipment and you need people, okay? And I have equipment, I don't have people. So the other option
Equipment is
is
so
to-
big, it's just,
either, if I take a mower off the road, then you're gonna get complaints about mowing. So it's what do we do?
okay, I think we talked about enough about this now. Is that what do we have to do to move this forward? Is that what the commission agrees on? Is in, Mike, you can you'll get this in your schedule to try to put them on the rotation?
We can put it in the rotation, absolutely.
Just don't
Now,
pay
does the MSBU pay our costs for
well,
that?
their
or how does that
MSBU has
work
no
on the
money. At
legal
some
side?
point, the MSBU's out of money.
There's an existing contract. I know it's based on a task that they do.
All right, Commissioner Turner, and then we'll make a decision on this.
I don't see an option to this at this time. My biggest concern is that we're setting a precedence for all MSBU's in the area, in the whole county, which there is a passel of them, that when they run out of money, we're gonna just go in and start maintaining the roads. And that's not my intention. That is absolutely not my intention to do that. But I see no option in this case other than the county go in and take over the maintenance on these roads. So yes, if you want, Mr. Chairman, I will offer a motion that the county take over these roads for the rest of this budget year until the new stuff can be done.
Okay. Okay, all right, before we start discussion, and we'll go to Commissioner Adamsack first. Julianne wants to she has her button up.
Button up.
For option C, commissioners, the new fee schedules that have been put together do allocate a very small amount of money to reserves. So it is possible that the Public Works Department could at least capture their hard cost materials and that type of thing. And the MSBU then, when they convert to the new fee schedule, be it paving and or the new dirt pave, they could pay it back. Essentially, those MSBU's are supposed to function as independent funding centers for the expenses that they're going to incur. And so that would be a proper accounting for the nominal expenses that Public Works might have in outlay over the next 6 months. It may be a very long repayment term, so i.e., they may not accrue a lot of reserves annually, but if they paid some small portion of those costs back to Public Works, at least you would be keeping each of the MSBU's within themselves whole.
Okay, Commissioner Adamsack?
The only thing I ask is if we could amend that motion to specify as a Class 1 road. We don't want him to I don't think he can maintain it as the MSBU does
I'm
monthly.
good with that. Yeah. I want
So
them in the
I'm
regular
not-
rotation like a class
I'm
one
gonna
road.
retract my second and for that.
I'll amend the motion to include it, on the rotation schedule for a class one road.
Okay, we got amended on
Second.
first, and we're gonna miss second, and that is to the end of the budget
October
year.
1.
Yeah, until they can get more MSBU money coming in.
Okay,
So
all right.
for further discussion, because we're not doing that as the MSBU monthly schedule, I don't think we should take it out of their future whatever, only because I don't think we're giving them that level of service that the MSBU would have.
We're
That's
not
just,
charging them for that level of service.
right, right. So I don't think we should recoup it. I think that, because they could theoretically give it back to us.
If they have
as-
money, though, we should probably recoup our expense, even though, because we wouldn't be asking them to pay as much.
Oh, if they have
We're not
money
giving-
today, you mean?
They have money in reserve.
But I don't think they have money today.
You have money right now?
So no, again, we're not saying that anybody has reserves. What I am saying is that when the new fee schedule gets imposed, it does include a very small amount for each MSBU to have a reserve. And we could take, since we wouldn't be doing it at the scheduled services or on the fee schedule, you wouldn't incur that 10,000 per month. What I'm saying is you could allow Public Works to only recapture their hard costs, the cost of lime rock or the cost of what they're actually putting down to be recouped over a payment terms specific designated by the board. Let's say it's 5 years. So you're talking about very small outlay of paying it back. Again, the concept behind the MSBU is that you're keeping that, they're a separate entity and you're keeping it whole, and that would maintain that.
Well, I truly appreciate your concept, I really do, but in this particular situation, I think we're battling over pennies.
Right.
I mean, I understand completely and don't disagree, I'm just saying that in this particular situation, I believe that we just, I don't think we're talking about enough money that it's gonna break anybody's bank. If we're talking about the money that Commissioner Harvey just came up with, even if it's double that or triple that, it's just, if we need to give Public Works an extra 10,000 in their budget to cover this minimal services or whatever, just let him come on back. But if he's that short on men, then he's probably got attrition money. He's probably not gonna need all the money he's got in his budget this year now. I'm not saying you're not, I'm just saying it's a possibility. So don't throw anything at me.
Gave you the evil eye.
Oh, yeah, you betcha.
Good news is we'll have
Well, if he
reserve money.
if he ends up needing more money towards the end of the year for this commissioner's vote to give him an extra 10,000 or whatever to help him make budget over this situation.
Okay, Commissioner Rawls, and then we'll move to a vote.
I think it's dangerous for us to let an MSBU run into the negative, and what created this problem was a perfect synergy between an MSBU citizens-driven committee, ignorance on the part of the county and the county government. So I think that we all have something to bear here. I don't think this is in any way that we're setting precedents. I think if anything, we set the bar. And we can get ahead of anything. And I don't know that you're going to have this issue with other MSBUs that are looking at these steep of increases. But Nilda, was it 9 years or 19 years? How long has this been going on as far as no increases year over year?
Oh, some of them close to 20 years.
So, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So this is where we can establish policy, set the bar, and say from here, going forward, not just with this MSBU, but with all of them, is get the folks prepared and let them know the cost of poker went up. While nobody was paying more for the past, pick a number, 15 years, cost of doing business went up, and it brings us to where we are today. In this case, I'm really glad that we can help these folks out. It would be great if we can get the conversation, because come October, you're going to get hit with a fee. And I think at that point, they're going to be even more frustrated, because then they're going to be, well, we could potentially be paying more for road grading than we would be for paved roads. So I don't, and even if this thing was resolved today, you're still away from getting any asphalt down the road. So I think, I'm not trying to speak for you guys, but if we were moving this thing forward in a rapid manner, would that help ease some of the frustration? Yes, no, maybe? You have to understand, if we
Okay.
made a decision today to help you guys get this thing paved, you wouldn't see any asphalt hit the ground for over a year. So I'm just saying, y'all got to be, if we're moving this thing forward, y'all have got to be a little bit patient with us, is all I'm saying.
Okay, we're gonna call for the vote. Julian, what happens to the MSBU contractor with no money? He just doesn't, clause in his contract, and when you're out of money,
The way the MSBU's operate is that they're demand-driven, so they work on demand. There simply wouldn't be a demand for his services in this particular MSBU area.
okay. All right, we got a proper motion on the floor. All in favor, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, move forward. All right, Mike, item C, Putnam Works, Finnegan Road and St. John's Riverside Estates.
Yes, this was a dead-end road off the end of Horse Landing Road, but it was determined that parcels at the end of Finnegan Road have encroached on the right-of-way, specifically with a garage and a septic system. So around the time of purchase, the current owner did survey it back in 2005, and at that time, the surveys clearly showed that the septic field was out in the county right-of-way. It was actually in the cul-de-sac. Currently, the current owner did put in a new drain field, and then environmental health issued a permit. And then when we went out to do some checking on it, it determined, again, it was determined to be in the right-of-way. So so they stopped that, and then now the gentleman cannot sell his house. And so what I've put together is several different options for this. One of them being, I think it was on page 19. It would be kind of just cut off part of that cul-de-sac. That would give, if we were to vacate that portion of the cul-de-sac, that would give the current owner plenty of space for the existing septic field to sit there. But I'm open to discussion on other potential ideas out there to make this whole.
Okay, so you got two different offers, would you reckon been the first one, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Because that affects just that vacating that parcel only affects the one landowner, because there's no other adjacent landowners next to it. So that would be our option if we want to do that. Now, we have not done an official survey for that yet. We want to bring it from the board.
Okay, all right, Commissioner Turner?
Yeah. I really want to find a way to try to help this situation out, but I want to start by saying that the county didn't cause this. The people, the owners knew that this was like this since 2005 when they got their survey. So I want to find a solution to this, but I also want to stay consistent with the things that we've done in the past. When we had that one over in East Palaca where that old gentleman that passed away built his garage a foot over onto the county's property, we found a way that we could sell that family 2 or 3 feet of the county's property, which didn't hurt us a bit. It was a drainage area that we owned beside it, and it didn't affect the drainage. We figured out a way to make this happen. So I see this commissioner supporting one of 2 different options. One would be to give them an easement to be able to leave their drain field on the county's property until the sewer shows up in that area. I don't know when that's going to be, but to me, it's probably a pretty good candidate in the not too distant future for a water management grant, because it's basically down at the end of Horse Land, turn left, go around to Carlton or Carlin, and it's back in that area in there. To me, that's probably the next place that we're going to go with water management sewer grants, is back in that area. And so it may not happen in the next 20 years or whatever. If the county ever decided to pave that road and they wanted to pave the cul-de-sac, they could still do it, because you can pave over top of a drain field. You can. Mm-hmm. So we could either give them an easement to allow them to be able to do what they're going to do as they go, or if that's not the avenue to go with, then I don't think the county should just give them this right-of-way. They should treat it the same way we did for the one in East Palaca, which is, if you need some of our land to make your deal work on your house, then how much does it cost a square foot? How many square foot do you need for us to get you there? And it's that much money. We've set that precedence on at least one that I know of. So that's all I have to say at this point, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Harvey?
Mr. Turner, I don't disagree with you. I think there's a way we can work this out. Would it be appropriate, the real estate agent's here who's been working with that, I'd like to hear from Chris on that idea. Would that be okay, Mr. Chairman?
So, me?
Chris, would you? Chris, on the way up, you've heard Commissioner Turner, what he's proposing. I think the owner, the current owner, probably would be open to some kind of something. So why don't you?
Hey, before you get started, I want to ask Mike a question. Is the drain field the only issue? Or is there a building in this right-of-way also?
There is also a building in the right-of-way.
We've got two issues, correct?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
Drain field is what kicked this off, was the drain field.
But if I understand, the building is just like a metal hoop carport.
It is.
So it's taking some screws out and it goes away. The concrete doesn't bother me, and if we ever wanted to pave that, then we just go in there and we take that up if it prevented us from paving it. So that doesn't really bother me. The part that bothers me, and I don't believe, and I'm not a attorney and don't pretend to be, but I don't believe that a title attorney would perhaps kill this whole deal over part of the driveway sticking out into the right-of-way. I don't know that to be true, especially if the exception was on the deed that part of the right-of-way, part of the driveway sticks out into the right-of-way, and then the people could still sell. If I was interested in buying the place, it wouldn't prevent me from buying it, especially if I knew all about it. So I believe it's still an option to do that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, all right, go ahead. State your name and address for the record, if you would, please.
Christopher Fields, 222 Bell Drive in Satsuma.
Okay,
So the septic is the main concern of the property. It's a raised mound system, and it was permitted before. From what the homeowner told me was, well, he's not the original homeowner that put the property in. He purchased the property, and then the survey came in 4 days after closing. From a title aspect, I'm not a title attorney either, but from the title aspect, I think you could put exceptions in there and still close the titling of the property. The problem then came down to whenever the septic, the drain field went bad, they had to replace the drain field. They issued a permit, and then we had a buyer looking around at the property and inquired, and that's what brought the drain field problem up. And then they wouldn't issue a final. The work's already been done, but they wouldn't issue a final on the project. So that kind of squashed that transaction. And there's no other way to fit it on the property. The uniqueness of the property, by today's standards, it probably wouldn't even be permitted to be there. The whole property wouldn't be. But there's no way to turn the mobile home. And the way the cul-de-sac comes in, according to the survey, it's only inches off the house. So whatever a solution.
Chris, do you think that Mr. Turner's idea of an easement recorded on that the county still maintains the wholeness there if we ever need it, and we allow that drain field in there, do you think that would satisfy all the closing requirements that needs to happen on this property?
I believe it would.
Okay. I think that's
But
a
as long
very,
as the, you know, as long as they can,
I believe part of this is gonna have to be until such time as sewer's
Right.
in the area, then they'll have to tie on to the sewer.
yeah, the homeowner told me he's open to any options that allows him to be able to liquidate the property. He's not in need of the property anymore. He lives up north now.
Chris,
So-
during when we talked yesterday on the phone, I believe it was yesterday, I
Yes, sir.
think, we talked on the phone, you tried to explain the situation to me. Since then, I found out the reason why they were issued a permit. They gave us a site plan that was not accurate. They showed the
Yeah, this is-
drain field being on their property. So when it actually came time and they went out for final inspection, that's when they noticed, whoa, wait a minute, this isn't on this isn't on your property. So there's a little bit going on here that we want to make sure that we understand. Like I told you yesterday, I'm trying to find a way to make this work, but not to the detriment of the county or to break the things that we've done in the consistency of other things we've done in the past. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
okay. Commissioner Harvey, you done?
I'm good, sir, thank you.
Commissioner Rawls?
There is another option. You could go with an aerobic septic system. Has that been looked at at all?
What is that, I'm sorry?
An aerobic septic system?
I'm not familiar.
I think the limitation that you're describing is because it's proximity to the water, correct?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's
'cause
where,
the property's bordered on both sides. It's a peninsula piece of property between Dunn's Creek and the canal.
right,
And there's not enough square footage to meet all the setback requirements to,
for a traditional flow-through system. But I think if you look, I did a house once upon a time in New Smyrna on the New Coastal Waterway, very tiny lot, big house, and we were able to shoehorn an aerobic system into that and get that to work. I just wondered if, so my biggest question is, you've got lots 2B and 3B. are now one lot, correct? And then across that, you have 4B. Who owns that? And is there a turning radius to turn an emergency vehicle, a garbage truck, or anything like that down that lane if we needed to?
We have talked with all those parties, and then they can live with, they can work with what we have presented here if we need to do that. So that is good.
So I think I could get on board. You're giving them basically what I would consider almost a buildable lot. It's almost 0.1 of an acre. I know I built a house on 0.12 once upon a time, so we're talking a fairly big piece of property here. Is there any consideration from the landowner to buy the property from the taxpayers?
I can't speak for the homeowner. I just come down to hear about the meeting and what was,
Okay, I thought you were representing the homeowner.
no, I'm his listing agent, but I can't speak for him.
Okay. If it came down to that, I think then we're not setting a dangerous precedent where somebody can expect us to just give away land and fix their problem. It sounds to me like, either through ignorance or just hope, somebody got a permit issued once upon a time, and then they found out that the site plan was wrong. I think the fix is twofold. Either switch to an aerobic system, which I'm not giving you a price, but you're probably north of $12,000 to do that, between 12 and 20.
In addition to putting the one in he's got in and can't get finalized.
No, you have to take this one out. This would come out.
What I'm saying though, he just put a brand new one in, he couldn't get it finalized.
Yeah, it's already in. It just needs to be covered up. So it was
Whoever came with the
permitted-
term ignorance is bliss,
It was
never had to deal with
permitted
this.
originally with, I guess, the site plan without a survey, or when it was originally established
Right.
by the original property owner. But then all he was doing is just to swap a drain field. He just needed his same spot, same everything. They issued the permit and then found out that it was on the right of way and wouldn't finalize. So
it's in the middle of the road.
yeah. Now, where it's at, it's not, I mean, it is at the end of the road and it's in the platted, but the house actually sits within inches of the platted cul-de-sac. So if the county were to go in
I
and
saw that, yeah.
do the cul-de-sac, then would there be a requirement to move the house back? You know what I mean? Like, it's a weird situation.
Does this make it right if we were to conclude this land transaction? Do they then get the final on the septic system, or because you have to be 15 feet off your property boundaries with your drain field?
That would be my only question for Mr. Turner's fix, would be if we did an easement, would that satisfy environmental health to issue the final?
I don't think we can waive their stuff. Their stuff says you gotta be 15 feet in both directions from
This
your
has been
boundaries.
this has been our back and forth through the whole situation over the
You
last
may not
5 or
have a
6
solution then. I don't know that they're allowed to, even though it's into a road right of way, I don't know that you're allowed to encroach. If this is being done next to my house, I would raise an objection and say, wait a minute, you're less than 15 feet to my property. You start to have that impact on my property with your leach field. The argument can be made. Who owns 4B and what is do they have a dog in this fight? Have they had any say-so in
I'm not
this?
familiar which the lot numbers are.
Okay, well, that's the only other neighbor that touches that cul-de-sac. There's the lots
Is that
that
the
we're
one on
talking.
the creek or on the canal?
The only other one on the other side of the cul-de-sac. So,
Two neighbors.
you know, this one right here that's on the cul-de-sac itself, these are the two lots you're looking at. There's a drain field.
15
This is
feet from
4B.
your boundary line, if you give him an easement, that would cover that, in my opinion.
He was fine, whatever.
You know, is it my turn, Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Owens?
I'm good now.
Okay. Commissioner Turner?
I don't think this is gonna be fixed today, I really don't, because I think that we're gonna have to get your owner of your land involved in this to make some decisions. This commissioner's not gonna vote to just give him property to fix his screw-up from years ago and hoping he could get through it this time around by giving us a site, inaccurate site plan. I am willing to try and come up with a solution. I'm absolutely willing, this commissioner. But I think those are my two options that I'm willing to support. One of them would be to give them an easement from now until sewer shows up, and I think it will at some point, and it may be 20 years, who knows? It could be 5 if we got the grants, but
Where's the closest force main?
Pardon me?
Where's this force main from here?
Down at the end of Horseman's Club Road.
Horse Lane.
Horse Landing Road,
How many feet?
a long way. But I really believe that you go left down to Carlin instead of right where the other stuff is that just got put in and we're fixing to pave. So if you went down there and went to the left back in there off of Carlin, that is like I said earlier, I think is a prime area to get a water management grant at some point to get all those houses off of septic systems, because that's why they give us the other money to get those other houses off, was the exact same situation that these people are in down here. So there's a good possibility that could show up, but who knows when it would be. There's no way of knowing. So I would be willing to give him an easement to let him go ahead and try to get final with the health department and get an easement to leave it there. I don't know that it'll ever be paved in any of our lifetimes, so I don't think that will be an issue either. It's not an open cul-de-sac. Right now, it's basically a wooded area that's got a trail through it that goes to this house. And so in the reality of the whole thing, an easement's not gonna harm the citizens of the county. We could always pave over it if we ever needed to. We could, I just think that'll fix it. The other deal is, does a man wanna pay money because those are the two options. Either give him an easement to leave his septic there, cause I don't see the harm, or he pays money for so much per square foot for whatever the land value is in the area, like we did over in East Palaca. We've set that precedence on more than one occasion. So I think he's gonna have to make that decision.
We've talked about those options with him, and he just needs to know which way's acceptable and what gets the permitting done to.
Well, I think I could go either way, but I don't think it's up to me to go to the health department to find out if this deal's gonna work. He needs to go to the health department and said,
He's
if I
willing.
give you an easement from the county that says they'll allow this septic tank to remain where it is, will you final my septic tank out? And then it'll be up to you or him, one, to go to somebody that actually has enough letters after their name to be able to make that decision and tell you, is that gonna keep it from closing on a sale, if it's out there. And so if you get all those, that would be the way to go, because it'll basically be a no-cost deal if the commission would go along with it. That's just me speaking as one commissioner, but I see no harm to the county for that to happen. You have, whoever buys it will have to hook up to the sewer whenever the sewer's available in the future, whenever that is. So it should run right up the end of the road, or it would not be available. So that's just me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Adamczak?
I guess I could maybe get there if we got something in writing from 4B saying they're okay with it. And maybe even 1B, to be honest. But I mean, I could even get as far as if 4B was all right with it, giving up that whole circle and split it between the two of them and just have their driveway end where that concrete driveway is. I think that makes sure that you get rid of that 15 feet.
Services, EMS, fire.
Yeah, but he said it's trees in there. It's not.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean there'll always be trees there if we decide to pave that road sometime in the future.
No, I get that. If that's what we're saying is, the services can't get there past that point anyway. So it'd be just like vacating the end of a road. So the services would come to wherever 4B puts their driveway in, because that doesn't look like it's developed, right? I'll have to drive down there before I don't think we're gonna decide this today either, but
Right.
I did not drive down to this because I honestly was a no vote when I looked at it, because I thought it was insane. But seeing that 4B is kind of vacant, if we made him right, he agreed to it, but I want no legal expenses to be paid by the county for this. I think they'd have to cover our expenses as well, for whatever we do, for me to get there.
Commissioner
Thank you.
Rawls?
So I don't know that you're gonna have a marketable piece of property at the end of the day, even if we give you the easement. I think unless you just found some sucker that was willing to come in and buy it without asking for title insurance, you're not gonna this isn't gonna pass muster. And then if the next buyer buys it, is this a durable easement? Does it convey with the property, or are we gonna have this exact same problem with the next owner? So I really think this needs to be worked out before it comes back in front of us. I think the landowner needs to get involved and needs to just make some decisions. And the decision could very well be he needs to haul off the mobile home, have a vacant piece of land and sell it for what it's worth as vacant property, because it seems to me like you've got issues if if you're that far away from a force main. I mean, you could put in 1 or 2 or 300 feet of 2-inch pipe and convey that down the road if there was a tap available, but if it's that far away, it may not be worth it.
Well, it's way too far for that.
Yeah.
Way too far.
Commissioner Harvey, you're good? All right. Where do you move forward from here? You're gonna go with the health department, I guess, and get, who does he get back to Public Works?
I believe if it was me, Mr. Chairman, I'd go see my land attorney is the first thing I'd do and find out if we got an easement, would this make this property marketable at all? Or, because there's no need in going through this whole scenario if it's still not gonna be a marketable property for the owner. If that will take care of it with an attorney, then that's what he needs to do, is decide, does he want to do that and come back to us, or does he want to try to buy half the cul-de-sac, or what does he want, the owner want to do? But then he needs to go consult attorney, because even if he bought half the cul-de-sac, it may not be a marketable piece of property out of that's not title, that you can't buy title insurance on. So I just can't answer those questions. It's up to him to go find that out.
Okay.
I think there's more issues here than just getting the drain field finalized. I think there's more issues.
Yeah, I mean, because that puts him in a position that he bought a piece of property that should have never been permitted, and then
Happens every day.
now he's,
Well, then, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Harvey?
Then I think Commissioner Turner's right. Then after you get that question answered, we go back to the health department and say, here's 2 options, because I know they want to close this out too. They're kind of frustrated, and they're looking for an answer, and they're looking for that answer, I wouldn't say just from us, but whatever we can come up with, I think they're going to, I don't want to put words in their mouth, but I think if it's reasonable. So Commissioner Turner's right. I think the first thing to do is talk to your land attorney, get that straight. These are the 2 options that we talked about at the commission today. Where do we go from there? Then we go to the health department and say, here's the 2 options. And they might go, none of that is going to work. It's not going to be enough. And if you do, then we're stuck. And we might have to go with the system that Commissioner Rawls is saying.
okay.
So, got some marching orders, got some work to do.
Something I can report back to him at,
There you go.
progress kind. So,
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you. All right, Mike, Public Works, Point Vena Vista Water Plant discussions.
Absolutely. Sam, you want to come up?
Yes. Do you want to come up?
Well, back in the late 1990s, I don't know if we can, there's probably a date somewhere out there, but the county assumed the operation of Port Buena Vista. What we looked at,
Know about it. Mike, can we just skip past the history
Sure.
lesson? I already know all about Buena Vista.
oh, okay.
So my question is, number one, is there anything we can do that's less than the $300,000 that's been proposed? Is that what it's gonna take to bring this up to the minimum standard, state standards?
This is, we worked with Florida Rural Water to come up with this statement of work and lay out the system. And this was their estimate to meet the DBP requirement that we're currently under now. We're under a consent order based on not meeting our disinfection byproduct in the water system.
How much do the citizens of Buena Vista pay towards this? I mean, right now, this is basically, I mean, we don't have an option here. We own this thing and we got to have it at minimum standards, so we don't have an option. So do we get to recoup any of our money by going up on the fees on the sewer fees at Buena Vista, or is this something we just need to eat?
Well, currently, I believe that each house out there or each resident pays about $50. It's a flat rate fee for their water out there because none of them have meters. And again, that's currently what they pay.
For water and sewer?
No, there's water and sewer, so it's
Is there?
actually more.
Oh, okay. Well, so there's water and sewer. I'm sorry. So there is a small sewer plant. That's the one we're getting the grant for to tie back into our main one.
How far away right now currently is the closest sewer tap? Is it all the way up at the fire station?
The water tap, you
Sewer
mean?
tap or water?
Water.
This is the water system that's we're talking about
Yeah.
for 300 grand?
Yeah,
Okay,
this
so,
one.
excuse me, I thought it was a sewer system. Okay, so how far away is the closest water system?
It is at the firehouse, yes.
2 miles.
How much would it cost to run a main line from the closest water out there? Because if it's 500,000, and then we ain't got to deal with this ever again because they got regular water, then I don't know, we don't need to do this. Instead of 5 years from now, the next commission's got to,
Let me, we have a 16-inch line that goes out to the firehouse. So if you run a 16-inch line, 2.3 miles, our rough guess is $2.5 million. $2.5 million.
okay.
2.5?
I was trying to cover up that part, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Commissioner Harvey?
Well, thank you. Two things. First of all, I want to make this very public. We inherited this system, and we've inherited other systems. And it's a crappy deal for the citizens of Florida. We inherited a private company who decides or goes bankrupt, and we're the ones left holding the bag at the end of the day. But we do have an obligation to our citizens, but dadgummit, they shouldn't have been bonded or something where we could go in there and attach to that bond. But that's irregardless. I just want to put that out there because we sometimes are left holding the bag of decisions that are made by people that we don't even get a chance to say something to. And that bothers me. I'm just going to throw that out there. Now, Mr. Turner, the reason I was going to bust is because I was talking to Mr. Troxel about the same line that you were under. Mr. Troxel told me 10-inch line, so I contacted a water supplier. And a 10-inch line to go 3 miles is about $895,000. To install that, as long as the water table is not 3 feet, as long as the water table is below 3 feet, is another $90,000 for 7 days worth of work they felt like they could get there. So you're looking at $1 million, not counting if we wanted to put taps along. But now the diameter of the pipe needs to be 16 inches and not 10 inches, correct? And then when we get out there, tapping into the 150 customers that are on the line that need meters and all that. So there's going to be a tremendous expense. But I'm kind of went down the line you did, that if I'm going to have to be forced to spend $300,000 on a temporary fix, I'd much rather spend $1 million on a permanent fix and give the people water, but it's a little bit more than that. So it bothers me to spend $300,000 on a temporary fix. That's still not going to give them the quality of water they deserve. So we really need to have a holistic approach to this out there in that area, have a genuine conversation. And I know we were looking at trying to run water pipe all the way around that loop one day. But this just might be a start of something that we might need to invest in to give people, but there's going to be cost, and there's going to be tap fees, and there's going to be costs. And I think right now, yeah, they get the $50 flat rate, but that was that old wholesaler selling water back to them. I'm proposing, I'd like to see us, if we could come up with a permanent fix that's reasonable, water hydrants, fire hydrants for that area, and then look at how we can supply our quality water that we're producing, the reverse osmosis water, and then give them a better product. So that's where I'd like to fall down at. I might have to settle with a temporary fix, I know that, but I'd rather fall down on a permanent fix and know that cost going in. And if we came from the fire department, it's not 3 miles, it is 2.3.
2.3 miles.
So that might offset the 16-inch pipe versus the 10-inch pipe cost. I don't know that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Rawls?
Mike, you and I talked about this briefly. The system that you're looking to put in is not RO. You're just strictly taking it from the well, you're disinfecting it, you're sending it down the line. What if you took it from the well, you ran it through RO, and then run it through UV? Is that possible or no?
Again, anything's possible, but just let you know that what this is it was the folks at Florida Water devised this statement of work, and then we got it permitted by FDEP. If we do something other than that, it's going to take a little bit more time and do some other, we need other permitting.
So maybe this conversation is for down the road, but I think part of the problem that we're running into is we have somebody like Florida Water come in, and they get in their comfort zone, they say, this is what we're going to offer you. You have a company in Daytona that builds RO systems, really very high quality systems, what I would consider low cost. And we have other options here, obviously. I'm just wondering why it is that somebody unilaterally made a decision and said, this is where we're gonna go, then we're gonna permit this, and then you hand it to the commission, and we have no time to react, because what we're being told is this is what we have to go with, we don't have any time. That frustrates me, because I think we could have come up with something that's more meaningful, that's a lot longer lasting. I know that, and was it 50 or 150 homes?
It's probably 50 homes. 50 connections.
Yeah, that's
50
okay, so,
connections.
and we're talking about how many thousands of gallons per day per home? What is your target?
ADF's running around 8 to 10,000 gallons a day.
Per home or total?
Oh, total.
All right, so I just bought,
Nobody's metered, we don't know.
okay, well, I just bought two 40,000 gallon RO systems for this farm that we're building, and those systems are about $125,000 a piece.
Well,
These stainless steel, variable frequency drive motors, everything in place, one skid, set on the ground, connect in, connect out, hook up your electricity.
I have a touch of experience running an RO plant,
Okay, so,
and I'm familiar with the materials of construction. However, given the source water that we have at Port Buena Vista, Port Buena Vista, one of the wells, the larger well, the more producing well, has an iron problem. Even if we were to put reverse osmosis out there,
you get a lot of
which
rejection.
would change the scope of the work, which would be more expensive, which would require more on-site time from the
What
Public
if we
Works
pushed in another
Department.
well?
Plus, we would have to pre-treat the water to get the iron out before it even hits the RO.
So what if we put another well in? And this is what we did out there, by the way, because the well that was on site, when we tested it, was really high in salts. So we pushed in two new wells that are 5-inch, and we're pulling from those. Those wells are a lot easier to work with.
If we thought about pushing another well to begin with, as JR will tell us, because he's very familiar with wells, well drilling is as much art as it is science. You could drill a well right next to an existing well. You may have no iron, you may have double the iron, you may have chlorides. You are close to the St. Johns River, so you do have the saltwater influence.
I'm
coming
very
in from
familiar
the
with that. I'm
coast.
just, what I'm saying is there was
But then
no
you're adding
options.
another cost factor
Right.
to this project.
5-inch well, $15,000 in today's dollars. So
Well,
I'm- you
be
know,
that
and-
as it may, this represents a more straightforward, less technically intense a way to approach it. The treatment levels are a little bit more, I won't say tried and true, but a little bit simpler. And simple is good.
Oh, no, I looked at it, and it's a very simple system. My heartburn is it's a $300,000 system, when we could spend less money and get a more sophisticated system that could perform better. But here's the thing. Without actually having, and what we did in the case that I'm talking about, was we probably spent close to $1,500 on water testing. We had it tested in 8 different laboratories in different parts, down in Miami, local. We sent water off to Colorado to have tested. So it was tested multiple times, not just by one laboratory, but by several. And they were looking for several things, but the one thing they were looking for was a solution to the problem. And a company called Dram Irrigation said, at the end, they took all the data and they said, this is what you need. And we have a pre-filtration, we have a filtration, then we have RO, and then we go into ozonation, which is another option that was not discussed. We're going straight for chlorination, correct?
We'll be going into chlorination, yes.
So there's multiple options out there, and none of those were presented as possibilities, is my point. And I know that this is a quote-unquote temporary fix, but it could be a long-term temporary fix without having to do the chlorination thing.
And again, ozonation represents a higher level of treatment, and it's also a more expensive approach as far as capital.
Two of
It's
those
a more
coming, yep.
expensive approach as far as maintenance. And again, I'm trying to get out of this thing as cost effectively as we can, because the overall view, the 20,000 foot view, the 50,000 foot view would be to come down 207, run down East River Road.
That's the low-hanging fruit.
2078 East River Road, and that's the goal. That's the big picture. That's the future. But in the
Champ.
meantime,
It wouldn't cost that much more to go out where the design is, and then we could all the way out, what road was it? We were going all the way out
East
the
River Road,
East
207A.
River Road to 207A and going around that direction, we could pick up all them other houses going
Federal
around
Point
there.
Road.
Yep.
And actually split the cost other than just Buena Vista. If you went out 207, it'd be just
If I had
Buena
enough,
Vista.
if I had enough
Pick up the
money
package plant
to
right
go
there
up
on-
207A and down East River Road, back down 207, I could find some dollars somewhere. I could squeeze enough out of the tomato.
Why
to
not the
come off
county revolving
Nancy.
fund? We could borrow money from the county, from the state revolving fund at like 0.25 or 1%. Would that not qualify?
That's good for me. I mean, y'all go ahead and fund phase 4 of that water system in East Palaca.
No, but I mean-
We couldn't find the money to fund the date.
It doesn't make sense to me that, you know, we spent $1.6 million all totality for 12 grow rooms. If I knock that, the grow room portion of it out, we got 4 27,000 gallon water tanks, 2 ozonation skids, 2 RO systems, the wells and everything for less than $1 million. And that's an 80,000 gallon a day
This is less than $1
solution.
million as well.
Do what?
This is less than $1 million as well.
No, I'm saying though, this is an 80,000 gallon a day solution, and I know we don't need anything close to that, but if we backed it down, I think we're talking less than a couple $100,000 if we did it a different way, but I understand what Mr. Trox was saying, we are out of time.
One thing that needs to be brought up, the system that is there currently is a 50,000 gallon a day system. That's its design criteria. And if I remember the permit correctly, we are replacing like for like as far as the hydraulics are concerned. Now, I'm not going to stand here and, you know, debate $1 million versus 300,000 for 80,000 versus 50,000. I'm not here to do that. I'm here to back up my boss. But, you know, again, I'm looking for a cost-effective solution that will meet the state requirements, that we can operate with our current staffing at the Public Works Department.
So here's the next dumb question. If we know that we only have 50 taps that we have to service, why would we do like for like?
Well, the potential is there for probably 200 because of the acreage involved. 3/4 of that park is not developed.
You know, we need to stop that.
Is that platted?
I don't know the answer to that question. I tried looking it up on the county's GIS one time, and it seemed to me it came in one.
All right,
One
I don't think
block.
that's platted. I looked at it, I don't think it is, but I think this is where our land development definitely comes into play at that point. And if somebody was to go in there and put in 200 lots, they should have to fork out the money to be able to make the connections that tie all the way back.
The current owner is very interested in us converting the existing wastewater plant, which one of the limitations they have is the wastewater.
Wastewater we're
plant.
talking now?
I'm putting a hold on the water for a second.
Okay,
The wastewater has a limit of physical size. You can only do so many gallons a day in a wastewater plant. And that part would not handle its full potential if it were to be fully exploited with its current wastewater. So the owner is very appreciative of the grants that we're chasing. And notice I said grants and not state revolving funds, because this is money that we don't pay back.
Right.
This is money that's given to us. We're taking this wastewater system out of the river, which is in keeping with the governor's edict for 2032 to have all non-beneficial surface water discharges removed from surface waters, because that particular sewer plant does discharge into the St. Johns River. And we're doing the environment a favor. We're utilizing, you know, grant funds. We're paving the way for the guy to do it. So putting that back off to the side and coming back to the water for a minute, we're trying to find the most cost-effective way to do this, knowing that 5 years, 10 years, however many years it takes us, we're going to get a water line in there.
Okay, all right. Jeff, I want to move to
No,
Commissioner.
I just,
Okay.
my parting shot would be, I think next time that we need to have more discussion about it ahead of time. You know, at some point, somebody made some decisions and said, let's get this forward to whatever utilities to come up with a price for us. But there was no opportunity for us to discuss options whatsoever, and maybe, you know, like Commissioner Harvey said, toss more money at it and not go that direction. But, you know, I don't want to slow this down. Mike, you and I had that conversation on Saturday when I got that email, and it scared the crap out of me. And I wouldn't want to drink that water after what I saw in the pictures. I can't imagine UV would even work to begin with. The water looks so dark, I doubt UV may not even be able to handle it. And I don't know if it's from iron or if it's just really bad water, but,
From rust.
yeah. So the tannins could be so high that or the color could be so dark that you wouldn't be able to do any good with the UV anyways.
Okay, Commissioner Adamsack?
So this is one big parcel? Is that how I understand it?
I haven't really spent any time on the GIS, but the one time I did try to look up an individual address in there. When I put up the address, it came up as one parcel. Now, if that's the case, I don't really know. I'm not an expert enough to answer on that.
Okay.
So
Commissioner Turner?
by temporary, I guess temporary fix, whatever we call it, what does that mean exactly? Temporary for what? Why is it temporary? Why is it not long-term? Are we anticipating a change in rules again? Is there?
No, well, no, I think you can anticipate changes in rules from
Right.
FDEP, okay? I don't know what those changes will be, but when we say temporary, this has been almost a new plant. For the fact is that everything out there is falling apart. It is 20, 30 plus years old. So when we do that, we're adding some extra filters out there and some other stuff that's needed to get us under that consent order, out from under that consent order that we're in. When we say temporary, it is only temporary until we can get the new water line from our RO plant up there.
And
That
this
is the long-term
And
fix.
this is to match the size of the plant that's there, which is based on demand for potentially 200 lots.
Or however.
I-
Short answer, yes.
So could there be savings if we sized it for the lots that are there?
Pre-filtration all the way through RO.
So if we sized it to 50 houses instead of 200 houses, I would think that'd be a smaller,
I don't think
System.
I don't think the DEP will let you go backwards.
okay.
You have to replace like for like.
And what is our timeline that we have to be done with this? What is their requirement by whoever?
We're under the gun now.
How long have we been in the gun?
Just a couple months. We got it in January. We figure signed it in February, and so then we started working with Florida Rural Water right after that, and then we've been going.
So if
forward from
there's 50 homeowners out there now, and we average this over 20 years, because that's, I would hope a plant that we put in new lasts at least 20 years, right? We anticipate that. This one's from the 90s, so it's lasted 30-some years. If we up the fee $39 each, we would recoup our money over that 20 years. I think actually it's 35 or something. I think we need to look into that in our fee schedule next year if we go forward with this. I am always against, and this we have to do, but we do have to figure out a way to recoup it, I'll say recoup it locally, or at least a portion of it. And when's the last time this fee's been raised? Have they been paying $50 since the 90s?
The sewer fee was increased a little bit in the last fee revision. The water fee was not increased since, I don't want to say what's a great word? Not guilty, but I didn't feel that it would be appropriate to, we didn't feel it would be appropriate to increase the water cost since we were giving them a substandard product.
Better bathing out of a jug.
Well, we flush that system 3 and 4 and 5 days a week to try to stay ahead of the rust or the iron, because the iron coming out of that one particular well is the biggest problem.
Are we able to do this under the precipice that we raise the fee as part of the decision to do that? In the same decision point?
I think that's part of the conversation.
How much
For me
rejection is
to-
on that?
It ain't his.
What's the rejection on
Hey,
that plan?
wait a minute.
What's the project?
Commissioner Adamsack's got the floor, please.
So I mean, and we're not, I guess, are we looking to make a motion today? I mean, this is kind of urgent.
It is very urgent.
I think that they should share in at least half and it's gonna be a better quality product in the end. It's gonna be real potable water that's great theoretically. I think they should share in the cost by 75%, I'd say. It's just, $25 each, $75 a month, starting next year when we can change the fee schedule.
What I'm asking for is to advertise this thing, get it on the street, get a hard cost on what this
You
state
has
of
a
work-
budget number?
They gave me a budget number, yes.
Wow,
300.
okay.
That was
your
their
hats.
budget number. But I would like to get this out on the street is what I like to do and
Do
get
we have any
get a hard-
idea?
Okay, Commissioner Turner is next. Commissioner Adams, are you done?
Yeah, I guess I'm done.
Okay, Commissioner Turner?
Okay. Sam, you live in this world, so is this an option to try and package this and sell it to somebody to let them put in a system and try to make money off of it, or is it just because there's not enough people there, they can't get enough money out of it to pay back their investment costs for putting in a system? We can't sell this to a private individual, or private firm and let them go in there and furnish water, fix the plant and let them go furnish water to this subdivision?
I would think that somewhere out there, like P.T. Barnum said, there's a sucker born every minute. And there would be somebody that might be sweet-talked into buying this plant or taking this plant. We'll give them we'll even give them the locks if they want to take it. But I don't know, short of somebody that has a large pocket, somebody that can rebuild what needs to be rebuilt. And if they jack up the rates to cover 100% of their costs, the people might not be able to afford the water and sewer inside the park. There's just so many questions, Commissioner, that
I
it's hard to
understand
answer.
that, but I think that needs to be the first thing we look at. Is this a packageable thing to where the taxpayers of Putnam County don't have to bail out Port Buena Vista for the bad water system? That would be this commissioner's number one question. My next question would be is, I'm exactly on board with Commissioner Adams' act. There's got to be a rate increase once this new water system goes in, even to the point to where we're going to recoup a large amount of this money, because I don't think it's up to the taxpayers of Putnam County to fund Port Buena Vista's water system. I don't.
Oh, I completely agree, and
If we
once
could
we
get
do
private-
achieve that point where we are providing a product that meets state standards, that we can say, yes, this is
I
legal water.
understand what
We're
you're
gonna do
saying.
it, yes.
I understand what you're saying, Sam, and I'm not gonna debate you today. We'll go after the meeting and debate the different things or whatever. We've known each other a long time, so we can do that. But anyhow, my point here being is that, this should be operated like a business, because that's what it is. A utility business is a business. Just because the government owns it, it shouldn't act any different than if it was privately owned. So if we're gonna put 300 grand in there, or if we're gonna leave it like it is, but which is not an option, we should be getting enough money to at least cover the cost of the services that we're putting in the system, whether it's substandard or not. Then when it moved up and it costs more money, then we charge more money at that point to move forward. It's just dollars and cents.
To try to give you a succinct answer, once we take and make these modifications to the plant, there will be rate increases so that we can get back some of the money that we're investing.
Okay, you mentioned a minute ago, or part of this conversation is that there's additional capacity in the subdivision that hasn't been utilized as of this point, as far as people that have moved in.
Correct.
That needs to stop. I don't know how we do that or whatever, but it's not up to the citizens of Putnam County to put in a system that's large enough to increase capacity for additional houses to go in a area that.
I wrote the question before he asked it. I said, I wrote the question before you.
Okay, but that needs to happen. We need to put a moratorium on that until they furnish water to their areas. Now I don't know what we got to do that, but I'm ready for that one. It shouldn't be up to the citizens of Putnam County to put in a larger plant where it can take care of the additional lots that have never been developed before, up until now. That's just the way I feel about it. That might be just me.
I'm sorry, I thought he said, because I kind of asked that same question, I thought he said DEP won't allow you to put a smaller system in.
Well,
There is another angle that we haven't
Oh, sorry,
discussed.
and I just thought he answered that.
Well, and I did, because DEP typically does not let you backpedal. If you've got a 50,000 gallon a day plant there today, they will not let you put a 25 in there.
But I believe, Sam, if you went to DEP and you told them, okay, the original capacity was for these additional lots that we placed that you can't develop those lots until you furnish water for them lots, they would probably only make us put in a system large enough to actually service the customers that are in that subdivision now that we have to service. Did that make sense?
Oh, it makes perfect sense, but all the time and effort, permits that have been rendered that will have to be rewritten, engineering that'll have to be
But y'all took it
redone.
upon yourself to do them permits under the way you wanted to do it instead of bringing it to a workshop back in January and February and say, hey, we got this issue. And then we could have maybe given you this direction or what we felt about it. And then if it turned out as you went through the process that what we wanted to do wouldn't work with DEP, that's fine. So I understand where we are, and I really do, but this is hard to swallow, guys. I mean, it's really hard to swallow. I mean, on one hand, you say, okay, what do we do? Go ahead and speed up phase 4 and bring the loop out around the way we had talked about doing it, and not necessarily down 207A, because then or 207, because you're not gonna get any revenue to speak of off going that direction. But if you go out the other direction and up 207A and around the Port Buena Vista, you get all them houses down the river and Grandview and all those driveways and mailboxes that are potential hookups to the system. So, but I believe our revenue, man, I'm trying to do this by memory, but it was millions of dollars to take that. I think we called it phase 4 when we were talking about it. On the water, it was like millions of dollars to go all the way out to 207, not including going down towards Port Comfort and down in that area, Esperanza, but just to go around and to that direction, it was a lot of money.
Yeah, the total phase 4, and I think 3B or one of those other ones, you're approaching $8 to $10 million total for that whole corridor.
Well, that was also going down to that other area down in there. I think it was 4 to 5-ish if we just went out now, but still 4 to 5-ish. It just takes it out of the ballpark, being able to get there. And I don't know that you'd ever get your money back unless we could find a grant or something, and we don't have that time. So, I think the first thing we need to do is try to find somebody that'll take this project on private, if we can, and then we need to start setting fees. That's just my opinion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Find somebody to take it on as the plan is right now.
Yeah, put money in it and raise the fees to what they need. I mean, there's water companies out there that put these things in every day. I don't know if this one meets their criteria or not, but that needs to be phase 1. How do we get this expense off the back of the taxpayers?
Okay, Commissioner Rawls?
Yeah, Commissioner Turner must have been reading my mind. So I wrote, what about the large landowner? Okay, so is there a homeowners association? I think that's one question that needs to be answered. And if there is, I think this should be the responsibility of the HOA.
I'm not sure of how they work their magic inside the park.
But right now, if we put the whole onus on every homeowner, it's $600 per homeowner. They get this prescriptive system, if that's what it actually goes for, it's $300,000, and it's done. $600 special assessment, they get their new water system. If we pay for half of it, it's $300 per homeowner. I think there should be a cost share, but the big concern here, like Commissioner Turner was talking about, and I'm looking at a picture, is that large landowner could be here looking to benefit. If our daily flow is actually demand is 8,000 or 10,000 per day, and we go 5 times that, then the potential there is for someone to benefit. Whether it's us, and if this isn't metered, I don't know how we benefit, because that just seems like a recipe for disaster. Somebody could go over there and wash their car, wash their boat, leave the thing running. We don't know. It goes unchecked, and it puts a lot more pressure on the system. The question I started to ask earlier was, what's the rejection of the current system? What are we pulling out of the ground? And then the next question is, if we went to community wells, how many homes are you allowed to attach to a single well? Is it 4 or 8? There's a number out there.
I'm not familiar with the community well concept.
So you have a community well down Walt Lane over off Horse Landing Road in Carlisle and all that. You got homes along Walt Lane. My aunt and uncle have a house there. They're all everybody shares a well. There's no water plant, there's no disinfection. It's a community well. So maybe we need to take a look at pumping the brakes, allowing no more development inside there. Take a look at a community well system, and then each homeowner can put their own filtration on their home as they see fit. And then we're out of the water business, and we don't have this conversation anymore.
Commissioner Adamsack?
Yeah, so I still think we can do it by the fee. You know, if you do $25 a month extra, which is, I know it's a 50% increase, but it is what it is. That's $300 a year per house. In 25 years, you raise $375,000, which covers the cost, even if we go over by 5-8%, whatever it is, of the 350 number. And that allows that community to pay for itself. And it actually allows maybe more people can connect at $75 a head. Then maybe we actually accelerate paying back for the system, I guess. If somehow they did connect 100 people instead of 50, that would cut that in half. And I understand why we don't want to do that, but in this case, if DEP in fact doesn't allow you to split it in half, I would love to be able to have it sized for 50 houses, if that's possible, and then redo the numbers. Maybe it ends up being $8 a house, right? But we don't know that. Based on this, if we had to decide today, that's how I would do it.
Okay, Commissioner Turner?
Are we illegally allowed to cap this system where they can't hook up any more people onto this particular system? I mean, if they've got a subdivision in there that platted lots, but they're not developed, can't we go in there and say, okay, unless you furnish water to your own lots, or these additional lots, you can't hook on to ours?
Almost every water system I've ever seen has a capacity limit, so other governments have ways that, it's not that they cap it, there's only so much that can come out.
Okay, well, I think the first thing we need to do is we need to find out, can we find a private entity that'll go in there and do that? I think the next thing we need to do, if we don't get any quick interest on a private entity coming in to take over this situation, we need to cap the system at the amount of people that are on the system now and not allow any further expansion on the taxpayer's dollar. And then if somebody wants to expand the additional lots in the subdivision, they need to come up with the money to build a system large enough or to furnish water to their lots in that system. That's just me talking, but I think that's where we need to go. I don't think it's up to the taxpayers of this county to fund the undeveloped lots within this subdivision.
What about also to see if, as you mentioned, it's for 50,000 gallons a day, you're using what, 8 to 10? If you could downsize the system because of the demand, not for the future demand. And I understood what you said, Sam, I believe, is that they usually don't let you digress or go backwards on this, but this is a different situation. We didn't ask for this plant. I believe it was just an unfunded mandate, correct?
Correct.
And so we got it and we got to deal with it, but kind of makes sense that they let us downsize that if feasible to meet the water needs of the people that are there, since especially we're going to say no more tap-ins and those type things.
Well, and in standard engineering principles, you use what's called a peaking factor when you design water and or wastewater systems, and most domestic water systems and wastewater systems have a peaking factor, and I'll come back and give you a little brief explanation of that, is approximately 2.5. So if you've got, and we'll just pick 10,000 gallons a day as our standard flow. If you've got a flow rate of 10,000 gallons a day, and that's the average of all the days, of all the weeks, of all the years, averages out 10,000 gallons a day, you put a peaking factor of 2.5 in there, and then you go from 10 to 25 as far as design. Now 25 is still a far cry from 50, but it's not just a straightforward, oh, let's just build a plant that, will service the initial capacity based on what we've been pumping for the last 10 or 15 years. We've got to have at least a peaking factor in there, and then as I was stating earlier, DEP typically does not let you go backwards. If you start off with a 50,000 gallon a day plant, you need to have a 50,000 gallon a day plant, because they look at the overall size of a system, the potential for a system. Mr. Commissioner Harvey, we have a system out in the west end that's on the DEP inventory that has 10 customers. 10 customers by law actually puts it under the Department of Health under a limited use system, which has an entirely different set of rules and regulations, whole lot easier to work with. But because the water system out in your district was originally designed for 45 or 50 lots, even though only 10 lots are active in there, we still fall under that DEP rule because when it was originally put in, that was what it was put in for.
Okay. Commissioner Harvey?
So you had to throw salt in the wound that I really don't like these unfunded mandates that we
Totally get
get.
it, but, you know,
And
the
I know.
court, the court system was the one that pointed the finger at Ronnie Clark many, many years ago. Those of us that are old enough to remember Ronnie. And I keep wanting to say it was Judge Perry, but I'm not 100% on the judge. But the judge of the circuit court pointed his finger at Ronnie Clark and says, Mr. Clark, these are now your systems.
Gotcha. I still think I fall down on the fact that we should try to figure out a way to run water pipe out there. That might be, it's gonna cost a lot more, but I think it's gonna deliver a better product. But then when we get there, what happens? I don't know the answer to that. I like Commissioner Rawls' statement about the community water. I think that's an option that we could ask the citizens out there. I'm sorry that I misspoke to the board. I was told it was 150 residents, not 50. So, or 50 hookups and not 150. So I think there's some options here. I know that time is of the essence, but maybe in a month we can come back and have this conversation. I don't think we're going to solve it today. I think it's just too complicated, and I want to see what the other options are available. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Rawls?
So I'm looking at the subdivision right now. There's Buena Vista, which I don't know if it's owned by David Burns. Is that part of this? There's 25 acres to the right as you drive in.
The gentleman that we've been dealing with in the office is Frederick Crack, and I don't know if he's part of a principal or management or what, but I'm not sure of the exact ownership. But it's off Dancy Avenue and Federal Point Road.
Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at it, and it listed as a subdivision. There is no platting whatsoever. I'm looking at GIS for the large areas you run in on the left, and that's the last four numbers 0006 on the parcel ID number, and then there's a 0000, which is also part of that. That's another large parcel on Waterway Avenue. Then you get to the homes that are down closer to where the ponds are in the river. I personally would like to look at other options that are less restrictive. Number one, do not include a 50,000 gallon system per day if we don't need that. I understand what you're saying about your multiplying factor. And if for 8,000 a day, that's a 20,000 gallon system. But if there's other options out there that are less costly, we eventually know that we would like to get water and sewer down there. That's been a goal that I've heard talked about since I got elected. So I don't think that's gone away, but it really does seem like we'd be throwing away $300,000 if, let's just say, for instance, a developer walked in tomorrow and said, I'm gonna buy a bunch of farmland over on 207 and put a development in. By the way, I'm gonna go ahead and give you $1 million to move that water line down further east of the fire station. We're halfway there. At that point, it might behoove us to go ahead and spend the money to hit these houses here and take them off wells. There's no doubt that the wells are getting saltier and we're getting more problematic, and water conditions change monthly. My well water tastes different now than it did a month ago, I can promise you that. So I just, whatever we do, we have to do quickly because these folks are waiting. But has anybody looked at the potential of putting in multiple wells? Has that question ever been raised?
Short answer, no, but the better question is who's going to pay for all the wells to go in?
We may have to help them out with that, but if it's a $100,000 solution versus a $300,000, that may be more palatable. I don't know that we need to be in the small package system business. I'm dealing with one right now on a project we're working on this in Satsuma where we're gonna be buying a new water plant and a new package plant for sewer for, St. John's River State, used to be Bayou Club. Their system has reached, it's end of useful life, and we've now been told by a consultant that if we're gonna build these new homes down there, might as well put in a new water plant.
Little sidebar for you, that sewer plant that is down at the Bayou Club was about a 1950s model, and it was used when it was put in.
Nice.
And it was put in by the same guy, the original developer of Port Buena Vista. So if you take what you found underground at Bayou Club, you got the same thing at Port Buena Vista.
We're replacing down there, I'm saying.
I understand, but just, all the junk that you're encountering now, same developer,
Biggest problem that I've run
same
into
theories.
is the homeowners association down there has no money for reserves. They've not managed it properly. The new owner has come in and said, when he finishes platting these new lots, he will have ownership of the HOA. He's gonna spend the money and put new systems in. So I won't have to pay for someone else's water and sewer down there. They're gonna take care of their own.
Okay, let's try to wrap this up. Commissioner Adams-Act.
I agree with everything Mr. Turner said earlier about trying to privatize it first and then limiting it. The only instance, and I just want to make sure that, Terry, that I wouldn't agree with limiting the connections is if we're forced to do a 50,000 per gallon a day unit and we have the capacity to do it, it actually would benefit us to take on more people. So if in fact the DEP says we got a match, then I think we need to allow it to expand to its max capacity. And again, I think we have to raise the price 50%.
What about the homeowners association?
I don't know. And I'm sure this guy that rents them the lots or however they get their houses, he hasn't kept his prices the same for, all those people are raising their prices every few
This
months
shows condo.
in the last couple of years.
This says it's the condominium association apparently.
Oh, I don't know. But we don't control that, so we can charge for our water.
Make them responsible.
Okay, all right. Commissioner Turner, then we'll,
Well, I realize time is of the essence. I don't believe this is gonna be solved here today. I've got to have some more information. Number one, can we find somebody that'll take this system over privately? I don't know if we got to advertise it and then say no. I don't know if we reach out. I'm gonna have to talk to procurement about that. I don't know. But there's rules I'm sure we've got to follow, but that would be phase one, is to get this off the back of the taxpayers. If that's not an option, then I think we need to call somebody at DEP and just ask them straight up, if we limit the additional hookups to this system, can we make this system smaller and less expensive and easier to maintain? And then we need to raise dues. If we've got to put in $300,000 plus of the taxpayers' money into this, the taxpayers need to recoup that money somewhere down the road from the user fees in that subdivision.
Seeing as how I've known you about as long as I've been married, I'll tell you like I tell my wife, and then I'll go ahead and.
Known you longer than you've been
well,
married.
but I'm also gonna tell you, and then I know you're gonna tell me whatever I say, it's gonna be wrong. But we will, I'll make some phone calls to see if there's anybody out there that's interested in this. We can certainly call the DEP and ask them the question. They may laugh at us and say no, or I don't know. But never hurts to call and ask.
Are they here for us?
Well, I just think we need to try to get out of this the least expensive way we can to the taxpayers. This is not a very palatable thing for anybody, and I'm sure that the 50 households that live in there, it's very important to them, and I understand completely, and I'm not trying to blow them off or throw them under the bus, but it's only fair to the other 73,000 people in this county that we do our due diligence and try to spend their taxes wisely. Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman. I think we just need to move
yep,
on.
one more and we'll, you
Just
got,
one quick question, since I was told 150 and it's 50 now, how many sewer hookups do we have in that area? Just real quick.
At Buena Vista?
Yeah.
Where it probably got a little confusing, 50 connections could equal about 150 people if you use engineering standards, because it's usually 2.3 to 2.5 people per household kind of
How
thing.
many sewer taps?
Sewer taps, about the same, about 54, I think the exact number is 54.
So some people might have a private well inside that.
No,
No, they
there are
don't.
no private wells, there are no septic tanks. This park was laid out
Okay,
with
so
central water and central sewer.
Everybody who has sewer has water.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Sir? Yeah, okay. Mike, you understand? It's clear as mud? Okay.
Yep, we're looking at buyers and looking at some other options, capping the system at the current amount, and we'll go forward from there. And talking to
Oh,
FDED.
DEP.
Anybody here to talk about it?
Excuse me?
Nobody here from the public?
For that, evidently not. Okay, we'll move down to Public Works, item E, vacate of Palm Street, North Third Avenue in
That's what it
Interlochen.
looks like when you drive around down there. Yeah. They have a little clubhouse and, I've been there. Nope. Ponds.
There's a citizen that submitted a request to vacate a portions of Palm Street and then North Third Avenue in Interlochen. We did receive statements of no objections to the vacation from Florida Power and Light, Windstream, Sheriff's Office, and the Fire Rescue as well. And Public Works has no objections to the proposed vacation of these roads.
Okay. Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is in my district, and Ms. Root is a longtime resident out there and friend of ours, but truly no one's complained, and the citizens want that. The roads don't exist out there as it looks like on this map, so I think we should move right ahead with this project. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we send this to the consent agenda for approval at the next meeting.
Second.
We got a proper motion to move the vacation to the consent agenda by Commissioner Turner and a second by Commissioner Harvey for discussion. Okay, I have a question. As I understand, usually with this is not used. It's just platted. All right, so the vacation of the road goes to the property owner?
Yes.
So that becomes their property,
Split
Yes.
between the two, one on each
split
side.
between the two.
Right.
Okay, we just discussed this on a right-of-way issue 2 items ago about doing something very similar like this, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to remind everybody, we're fixing to give this property away, right? That's what happens, we're giving it away. Okay,
Yes.
all right, Commissioner Rawls, there's a proper motion and a proper second on the floor to vacate portion of Palm Street, North Third Avenue in Interlochen.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. Okay, passes. Okay, Public Works deed accepting a portion of Huntington Shortcut. Excuse me, this will move to the consent agenda. This is not
This will move
over
to
yet.
consent
This will
agenda.
move to consent agenda, so
Yes.
it'll be open for public comment at that particular time, correct? Okay,
I think the lady needs to make sure that did y'all hear what he said? That
Good.
if this is gonna move forward to the consent agenda for approval, so it could still be talked about in the commission meeting in 2 weeks.
right, it can still be, it can be opposed. Will there be, will there be advertisements out there? Will this be a public hearing?
I believe we have to.
This will be a public hearing?
Yeah, it's in there.
Maybe an advertised public hearing, probably in our day meeting, correct? So they'll put the markers out there so people have to come to express their opinion for or against this.
Yeah, this is a public hearing, and we're going to set up for the May 10th.
Right,
May 10th.
May 10th, okay. Okay, deed accepting a portion of Huntington Shortcut Road discussion.
And there's a developer going, that's about some large parcels down in Huntington Shortcut Road. And as part of the land development process and the land development code, as part of the process is to make sure we have the current right-of-way on our roads. So this 13-foot right-of-way that we're trying to, they've given us 13-foot right-of-way that we have to, it would be deeded to the county on Huntington Shortcut Road.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept this right away at no cost to the county.
I agree. Second.
Okay, got a proper motion and a proper second. Will this take care of this, or will this have to go to the consent agenda, or we just go ahead and accept this?
Actually, I think this does take care of that.
This takes care of it?
Good.
Okay, and Mike, this is just,
It should probably go to consent.
Yeah,
Resolution accepted.
because it's a what?
a resolution.
Okay, so this is just that portion of 13 feet to.
Yes, sir.
Which is needed if the person is going to go forward with a particular project.
Yes, yes, as part of our land development code is requires that, so, yes.
Actually would need more than that, but it's not really fair to make him put in 60 feet when there's only a 20-foot, I mean, a 43 feet when there's only a 20-foot right-of-way. So the 13 feet is basically his half, which would make it fair, you know, participate with his half, so. Mr. Chairman, would you like me to restate my motion that we move this forward to the consent agenda instead of approving,
Yes, I would.
so stated?
Okay, we got a
Second.
proper motion, amendment and a proper.
Yes, I second that.
Amended, okay. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, okay, saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Y'all have to stick around that long if you don't want. Them chairs get hard out there.
Okay, if it's okay with the commission, because there may be some items on commissioner comments that may take some more issues, because I don't want to bring up the issue of the paved road down in my district. I'm going to move public comment on miscellaneous items up. This portion of the agenda is designed to allow citizens an opportunity to bring matters to the attention of the board. It's not reasonable to expect that the board will engage in debate or deliberation about matters on which the board received no prior information as part of the agenda. Please limit your comment to 3 minutes. Hopefully you filled out a comment card. You don't have to. Okay, if you can give that to Ashley over there where I have it. What's the difference between the yellow and the red? They run out of blue? Huh? Okay, first speaker, Mr. Brian Campbell.
Request to go after them,
Okay, who wants to go first? Okay, come up here and tell me your name and I will.
That's a good way to handle it, Mr. Chairman.
That's why you're the chair.
Okay, you
Hello?
must be
I'm Grayson Gertler.
Grayson Gertler. Okay, if you
Yes.
just state your name and address for the record, and please speak clearly into the microphone. And we're not going to cut you off right at 3 minutes, but basically 3 minutes. And
Okay.
Thank you for coming. I'm sorry this took so long.
Well, thank you for having us. My name is Grayson Gertler. I live at 110 Grande Court, Satsuma, Florida. I've lived in Acosta Creek for about 27 years, and originally the owner of the marina paved the road, and then about 20 years ago we got an MSBU, and both worked really well for us. We realize that we're getting a rate increase, and we should be paying around $517 a year now. And that's based on the new standard of 12 gradings a year and certain number of mowings and a certain amount of lime rock. And I have a question. In the past, we had gradings or maintenance on an as-needed basis, and it's worked fine for us. So I'm wondering if we have a choice in not having the work done every month if we don't need it every month, and would that reduce the price? I mean, I know there's no free lunch, and when we met, we all were willing to pay what it costs to have our work done at the level that it's been for the past 20-some years. But we were wondering if there was any leeway in allowing us to have only the services we need and not then be charged for services we don't feel that we really need.
The resident, I'm going to say, Nilda, I don't know who wants to answer that question. The resident commissioner expert is Commissioner Harvey, but I understood that the MSBU, y'all act as a board, and then that y'all pretty much set the criteria on what.
I
services you
told you all
need, but I'm
so.
not sure.
I think she's referencing more the standard of service that we have established with the new fee schedule.
Okay.
I think that's more what your question is.
Yes,
Which is something that's across the board that we have agreed that we're gonna put in place. So I think that's more what her question is referencing.
Okay, so you're wondering if it can be modified.
Yes, sir.
Well, that'd be difficult to modify, custom modify every single MSBU in the county to a certain. Ooh.
Well, this one, well, I'd see your point there. This was kind of different. It's the only one in District 1. I was shocked to see it when I got elected that there was actually an MSBU. And this road can't be a half a mile long, is it?
No, I think it's .8.
Yes, ma'am.
I think it's .8.
Yeah.
And actually, I don't know if I don't know if it's actually .4 because there are like 3 roads mentioned and Grande Court is in there and I think 2 other things that are not even cut in
Right, there's a couple roads within that.
within that .8 that are not maintained.
Correct,
Yeah, there's .8, but only .4 is maintained.
correct.
That's correct, that's right. And so we were just wondering, since we've been happy with it all these years, do we have to pay for more than we want or that we really need? We're willing to pay. I mean, we know the prices have gone up. And if, we have to pay $300 a year, that's fair. But do we have to pay for more than we want or more than we need?
Okay, I understand the question. Commissioner Rawls, you have a comment?
I think you heard the comments that were made from the other MSB that was in here earlier, and the issue that they're having.
Yes, where
They're the
you're going to
reciprocal
help
of
them
what you
out.
have.
We have $36,000 in reserve at this point.
Yeah,
So we don't need money.
I think what needed to happen, or what should happen, is if you guys do absorb this increase, I think y'all need to y'all need to meet as an MSBU. You need to make a decision on how you want to handle that, because it almost sounds like you only have, unless I'm looking at the wrong one, you only have like 10 parcels.
I think there are 12 households.
Uh,
2 are not
okay.
completed yet, but we have 12 households with people living in them.
How many vacant lots? Is there
That
any?
I don't know. Those have just been purchased by, I think, Florida Holdings.
There's 65 units, excuse me.
On Grande Court, or in the whole
Oh,
MSBU?
For the whole MSBU,
Okay,
sorry.
so I think y'all need to get together, have a meeting, and make a decision on which direction y'all want to take your MSBU.
We sort of met last Sunday and discussed that we are happy with our MSBU. We're very happy with the level of service we've received for the past 20 years. It would be nice if we could continue just having it done on an as-needed basis or every other month or something like that if it was less than 12 months, because we don't really need it 12 months.
What happened with their MSBU that triggered a change?
I didn't hear your question.
What happened that triggered the change to the level of service? Who triggered that?
It was just a standard that our department agreed upon when we were viewing the new cost.
Did y'all meet with the citizens and their
No,
MSBU?
it was just a standard that was across the board, no, sir. For all MSBUs.
Regardless of the need.
Right.
Is it possible to have that?
I don't feel I'm the decision maker on
No, I mean,
that.
are they able to make that decision and tell us what they
They
want
make
to have? for-
recommendations to the board, is what they do. That's what the advisory committees are set up for. Sorry, I'm having to.
I'll be honest, this is the first time y'all been in front of the commission since I've been elected, so, I don't know if this is a situation where, are the rates established for 1 year only?
We base it off the current bids, which my understanding is for reoccurring 2 for a total of 3. So it's based off of that fee for the next 3 years. So that's what we based everything
And
on.
those wheels are already in motion?
I'm sorry?
Those wheels are already in motion?
Technically tomorrow they will. I'll start printing letters tomorrow. So nothing's set in stone yet. But again, that's not my decision to make.
Okay, Commissioner Adams-Zach?
I think we would have to have them set some sort of criteria. I don't think an as-needed basis really works, because what if you decide you need it 50 times in a year? And that, I know that's a little flippant, but if it rains a lot and you need it 28 times instead of 12.
I think we've probably
so-
done maybe 7 at the most. I think,
So I mean, I think you guys would, like, kinda like he's saying, maybe we hold off on whatever we're gonna do tomorrow. And if they say they want it bi-monthly or something, we let them go bi-monthly.
well, bi-monthly would be great if it meant we didn't have to pay 517 and we
I
had to
think
pay
it would
less.
change the
I don't know
amount
if you have
probably.
enough people representing them.
But, right, but wouldn't that have to kinda go to every lot that's in the MSBU as well?
Yeah.
Just like,
Very few people here.
I don't know.
I believe probably 10 or 12 people have sent emails to Nilda, and I'm here to speak, and I believe my email was there.
But I thought we said there's more lots than that, right?
64.
65 units.
Right, so those other 65 units have a right to have a voice as well.
True. That has, I believe, all been bought by Florida Holdings, Bass Pro.
Right,
And-
and they have 55 votes
Do they have
in the
55?
decision, right? That's how it went down with the other MSBU, yes,
Yeah, get a vote per lot, I believe, don't you?
yeah.
Okay.
Um,
All righty.
So I don't know if maybe, I don't know.
Well, did they
Think-
have it?
Wait a minute, Commissioner Harvey.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, go.
Okay, I think Commissioner Rawls asked a question. The reason they went up again is the same reason Boswick went up, is the people that were doing it didn't want to drive from the West Putnam area all the way back down there. And so the cost went up. Is that the true cost? No, it's not the true cost. We all know what the true cost is. But your MSBU has money in it, $36,000. Your true cost is about $10,000 a year to do the work if you had a local person down there that could do the work. So conversations are in the works right now about certain things that could help you out. I don't want to elaborate right now. I just want to say that they are. But again, it's because those contractors that were doing the work that lived in the West End did not want to come across the bridge anymore, come all the way down there for 4/10 of a mile. I mean, you got to imagine that's a long way to haul equipment. That's a long way to haul material if those needed. And I think there's a better way out of this situation. You're not in dire straits right now. You got $36,000 in reserves. You're good. I think if we could just wait a little while, I think maybe there's a solution on the horizon coming. Okay?
Okay,
Okay.
but in the meantime, we'll continue to have it done monthly, because that's the set standard.
I can't answer that. That would be Nilda's.
Yeah, I already spoke with her, and I told her before this new vendor took over, they did it on an as-needed, as I told you. And I can sit with the committee and get guidance from them how often they want it, because it is a Great Line-based road. So it doesn't need to be graded every month. It was just some sort of standard that was set in place under these new contracts. So I will definitely meet with them separately and get some kind of routine schedule in place moving forward, as far as how often they want it graded.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Turner, then we're going to go, who wants to speak next, Mr. Campbell or Mr. Harvey? Okay, but
While
Commissioner-
he's coming up, does this MSBU have a committee that's in charge?
They do, yes, sir. We
Okay,
have several.
so if the committee comes in with recommendations, so it's not necessarily one vote, one lot per se, it's what the committee recommends they bring to us. Isn't that the way most of them work? I don't have a lot of them in District 3.
Correct.
So, okay, so if the committee, which is here today, comes for us and they ask for recommendations, then at this point, what we need to do is probably take their recommendations under as advisement that they don't want to do that. And so the committee itself wants to do on an as-needed basis. Don't we have some MSBUs that are kind of on an as-used basis, not to exceed 12? And then if there's any money at the end of the year, they
I think
maybe
there's
pay
some
less
confusion.
next year or something?
I think there's a little bit of confusion, because we're trying to move forward with the new fee schedule based off of a certain standard, exactly, a minimal level of standard. And I think what she's referencing, is more so moving forward every month. Do we have to have this monthly grading, which they do not. They come to me with recommendations. If their road doesn't need it, we skip a month, bi-monthly, quarterly. So I'm not sure if we might be
They're
talking about
paying
two
for it.
different
But they're paying
situations
for
here.
it whether they use it or not, basically.
Correct, and that's what her point is.
Right.
Well, I'm
That's
on her
exactly
side.
Right.
If I'm paying for it, I either want the damn thing
So
or I
again,
don't want you to
if
charge
you
me
would like
for
for
it.
me to change the standard of services for this particular one, we can do that and adjust the rate. If you'd like for me
I
to do
think that's
that.
what needs to be looked at.
Okay.
Because I thought, and I maybe missed something when we were going to this, I know you had to have some standard, right, of what grading, fill, mowing,
Correct.
but they're their own board. They should be able to choose what they want and when they want it. And then hopefully the contractor will take that. And then the contractor may say, well, I can't do it 4 times a year. I've got to do it 6. And they got to make that decision. But they need to have a voice in it because they're the ones paying for it.
Okay.
I agree.
So would you like me to hold off on doing those letters and maybe meet with them separately and come back to you with the standard from the committee for the new fee schedule? How would you
Would
like
be
me
my
to?
preference.
That's what I would think. Yeah.
Okay, I can definitely approach it that manner. If that's okay with everybody?
Okay.
One
All
other
right.
thing before, if I could,
Okay.
Me?
you should
Okay.
consider leveraging the, not the overfunded, the reserve
Reserves.
money.
Yeah.
And not to use it, but to have it there as, you know, where if they say 6 times a year, but if there's a 7th time needed, it's.
You
it's
have
a
the
set amount
funding.
of money,
Okay.
and you have that, and make sure they'll carry you for 3 years. I think that's the simple solution.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Mr. Harvey?
But reserves aren't just for grading. They're for drainage, they're for
Road
emergency
washout.
repair. If a hurricane comes through and blows the road out, there's more there to it than just that. That's why we even set a reserve minimum of a percentage of that.
Makes sense, yeah.
Okay.
Nilda,
Mr. Harvey?
Not at all. I'm Brian Campbell. I represent 146, which is my sister's house, and I have an interest in that, as well as my residence that I'm building at 150 Acosta Creek Drive. Nilda has been very good about working with our MBSU committees, organizing the meetings and keeping us informed as far as what's required to run the MSBU's. And I just want to, forward that to you first off. I realize there hasn't been an increase in the cost that each member of the MSBU pays. However, the increase was a little shocking in the fact that it went up nearly 400%. And that represents
Been
quite
to
a
the
jump.
grocery store lately?
And these things have come out, as Nelda has just expressed. A lot of it is because the service went from what we requested of 4 times a year just to come out, scrape the limestone and fill in the smaller potholes, to now it went to, we heard, once a month, which is actually overkill for this limestone road. We realized it'll probably be paved sometime in the future. We haven't come to any consensus as far as how everybody feels about that, and that's something that we'll work through in the future and then, possibly end up here again. So I support the 4-time or quarterly maintenance on the road, and our committee that runs the MSBU has done an excellent job. Mary Richards is, I believe, the chair of it, and she maintains good communication with Nilda at Public Works. So,
Okay.
Like I
Thank you.
said,
Commissioner Rollins?
All right, so you mentioned paving. Here again, $500 a year, 60 houses, that's 30,000 a year times 30 years is $900,000. You might be able to pave your roads for less than that, and stretch that over that 30-year basis to where you're paying less money and driving on paved roads. So if that's a consideration, you heard the conversation today. You're shaking your head no. Who knows what the other 63 landowners are going to say, but.
And this is something that, when you mention the paving, that's been an issue in the area, because there's few people that actually live back there. And in the past, when paving has been brought up, the people have chose to keep it natural. If you've ever been back that way,
Oh, yeah.
it's tree line canopy. It's a beautiful natural setting, and paving won't do anything to make it more naturalistic, if that's a word. So they've done a great job bringing the limestone in. It's hard packed. You can use any type of vehicle you need to get down it. It's not a condition of the road that is impassable or anything of that nature. So,
Just toss that out there, if you guys get that point, think about the cost of maintenance on the lime rock versus pavement. That's my point.
well, with that said, also, there's, I saw signs, dirt to paving or something of that nature. Is that a grant program?
No, so every year, we have so much money that we take out of the Better Place Plan, that converts dirt roads to paving. And in some cases, it's advantageous for us to pave a road so you don't send a grader miles and miles and miles down Palm Avenue, for instance, the end of Palm Avenue, just to grade one road. It doesn't make any sense at all. You can leave the grader moved over here and not have to move as much. So, and that's what that program is. It's been ongoing and will continue, hopefully, as long as the.
That's your 1 cent sales tax, is what that is, the extra sales tax, what most of that goes for. Okay. All right, Mr. Harvey?
Yes, sir.
I think I was next.
Okay, Commissioner Turner had a comment.
I know if you turn my light off, you'd forget.
All right, Mr. Harvey, Commissioner Turner wants to make a comment before you speak.
I'll reserve till after he's done, Mr. Chairman.
My name is Ron Harvey at 104 Sonata Court in the Casa Creek.
Not related to me at all.
We're not sure yet.
We're not sure.
But I'd like to just reiterate what my fellow neighbors have said, that 4 times a year is good for us on our road. We've been there a number of years. We've never had any problems. I would hate to think that if going from $117 to $110 to $517, I realize as an ex-contractor that, yeah, things have gone up dramatically in the last few years. I mean, just go to Home Depot and try to buy some treated wood. But,
There you go.
but I don't think that the $30-some-odd thousand a year that we're looking at 517 times the number of lots that are paying, it's a little overkill for us. And if we did drop it back to 4 or 6, depending on how the contractors can come out to take care of us, I would not think that we would be assessed at 517 at that point. We would be dropped down. And then as far as the other properties, there's only really 13 residences on the property on the Acosta Creek, because the marina takes up an enormous part of that area. And the marina has the major amount of traffic. And it's going to get worse after Mr. Morris develops the rest of it. He has no plans that I know of to develop the 40-some-odd lots that he purchased when he bought the marina. Those are just paper roads. They're lots, most of them are not even accessible, even with the layout. So we're going to be the 13 people that are going to be taking care of that road and paying for it. But I hope we can come to some kind of agreement. I think down the road, paving is definitely the way to go, as Mr. Rawls pointed out. We'd love to see it in the future. Right now, I don't think it's necessary. All right, thank you for your time.
Okay, all right, thank you. Commissioner Turner?
When it comes to deciding if you want it paved or not, I think you need to go through the same process that one earlier did right off the bat before you put any money out or any time or effort, send out the petitions. Because unless the other 55 lots on the end or whatever they are down there want it done, you can't get the majority. And so you got to have a 50% plus one in order to get your road paved through your MSBU. That doesn't come from just recommendations from the committee. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Rawls? Or excuse me, Commissioner Adams.
What are you trying to say?
So I do think, given the uniqueness of this location, though, that the savings going by a quarter instead of monthly probably won't be 1-to-1. Because my understanding, a lot of that is extra equipment and transport.
It
And-
probably won't, yeah.
Yeah, so it doesn't sound to me from what I've heard about all this that it would be a 1-to-1 saving. Like, I don't think you'll be able to divide 510 by 4, because I don't think it'd be economical to the contractor to get his equipment there. Because part of my understanding is they were locating some equipment closer. So that means they were gonna buy equipment for hundreds of thousands of dollars, or maybe used for $60,000 to put closer to where you live. And that cost doesn't change. So for 4 times, the overhead costs might be really close to 12 times. I just want to put that out there as a potential thought.
Okay. All right, so you're gonna get with them on that, okay? You get back with us, okay? All right, any other public comment? Okay, Ms. Glenda Marchbanks? If you'll state your name and address for the record, just pull the microphone down so we can make sure we can hear you.
There you go.
Glenda Marchbanks, and I live in Middleburg, 1928 Hereford Road, Middleburg, Florida, on property here in Palatka. And do I speak now?
Yes, ma'am.
The truth is, I came here today to grovel with you because we bought a piece of property here, and we had intended, it was intended to be a mobile home park at the time. When we bought it, it was already overgrown and everything, but according to the county at that time, it could be a mobile home park with 10 mobile homes. And before we got to do that, my husband became very, very ill, and I just couldn't leave him, and I'm a realtor, and I was in an office in Middleburg, and when something would come to the office, they would sign for it, and they'd put it back on my desk. I was not there for about 8 months, and when I went back, there were some things from Putnam County there, and I went to the meeting. Just before he died, I actually went to a meeting, and they told me that somebody had put like oil in these gallon jugs, and they had put trash back there. And since I had not seen the property in some time, I wasn't aware of that. So later on, I was called back to the meeting, and I went to this meeting, and they said they were going to fine me. My husband, meanwhile, had passed away. So they were going to fine me, and I told them, you know, I would be happy to clean it up. I had actually found somebody that wanted to purchase it, and they said they'd go clean it up for me. And unfortunately, when they went to the county told them the only way they could do that was to put like a sewer plan or something on the property, so they backed out. So I hired a young man that had rented from me and done work for me on my property to go down and clean that up. And to my knowledge, he did. He brought back some pictures. It appeared that he did, and I paid him $200 to do so. And I thought that was over because they were going to go back and look at it. Well, meanwhile, I was given we opened a new office in Willaca here in Putnam County, and I was given that office to make it run, and I'm a broker, so I've been working down here. And in the Middleburg office, they have new people. Well, I guess they didn't know who Maui of Palatka was. They were signing for it, but it's never made it to my desk. And the broker's daughter got this one and called me and said, you have a registered letter from Putnam County. So I went in, and it's telling me that they're going to foreclose the property. I wasn't invited to the other meetings, probably because the mail never got to me, not because they didn't send it out. I'm sure they did. So I came to grovel because I don't want to lose the property. This was property that my husband wanted for the children, and I promised him I would sell it and give them the money from it. And I've got it on the market. I don't know how much they fined me. I don't even know that, but whatever it is, I want to pay it, but I'll need some time. At least I just paid $8,000 worth of property taxes and paid off the loan for his funeral.
Who told you they were gonna foreclose? Cause that
She
would
got, this
what
went
it
to
said
special
right here.
magistrate.
But the magistrate can't foreclose, can he?
She got a letter from the county, and it says that they're going to lien the property or foreclose the property because was no action taken, and if I could for just a second, so I met with Thomas this morning. This is just one of those frustrating situations where somebody's illegally dumping a property, and Thomas said it's getting worse. He's been out there several times. The carboys of liquid, he says, have been tested, and they're not concerned about the liquid in it. They just need to be toted off the property. But now you've got furniture out there. Have you seen the couch? There's furniture out there now.
I haven't been back out there myself
Right.
since he went out there.
So
since I've seen it.
yep, trash attracts trash, and the problem is what was a small problem is being compounded because somebody's using your lot to dump on, and because you didn't respond, it went all the way to special magistrate. And when I spoke with her last night for the first time when she contacted me and said, I don't know that we have any ability to overrule the magistrate, do we?
No, but she's just got to go get in compliance and the magistrate don't care.
Okay, so that,
Go clean the place up and call Thomas and say it's cleaned up. End of the discussion.
and then
I think they fined me, but I don't know how much. I don't know. what
Who does
that
she
is.
need to go see to find out where exactly that she stands? To Thomas Moore?
yeah, I spoke to Thomas this morning, he's aware of it. He didn't say, he just said that until, they won't total everything until, he goes out there and it's in compliance. The problem is, it's probably right back out of compliance the minute that you clean it up, somebody's gonna go out there and dump on it
Understand,
again.
all us landowners realize that could happen to anyone at any time.
Right.
So I don't know what to say about that part of it, other than hopefully they can have somebody look at it, a neighbor or something, to try to keep it out of there, but that doesn't mean
Oh,
that.
dear.
She's
my
right over by
property,
this.
I'd have to
yeah,
clean it up.
Right. So the,
Use some trail cameras or something would keep them
yeah,
out.
I think the trail cameras would probably be a good thing.
Yeah, yeah. 'cause
And
I don't know
Thomas
how
also
else.
suggested putting a gate, he's right, put a gate up. People aren't gonna, they're not gonna just drive right on your property if they have to stop and get out and open the gate.
Well, I don't believe you have to come and grovel with us today. It's just a matter of talking to Thomas Moore and find out what you have to do to become compliant. They're not gonna come out next week and foreclose on your place without notifying you or doing any of that. Just isn't gonna happen. Just go talk to Thomas and find out what you gotta do to bring it into compliance.
What,
Okay.
what Thomas did say was that you need to get in compliance before we abate it. We'll get it, we'll bring it into compliance, then you will have a lot of fines assessed. Right now, I don't know what the fines are, but I'm sure they're at a minimal level versus turning a blind eye to this and getting him to go out there and take
Just go-
pictures and say it's
Just
done.
go clean it up. That's all you
Yeah.
gotta do, and then you'll be surprised how easy it'll
There's
go
the
after
trash.
that.
Yeah.
Clean the trash out.
We never go out there and
Yeah.
abate people.
Administrator Suggs, did you have a comment?
Yes, sir. Before we scare this poor young lady to half to death, ma'am, if you'll just get with me, I'll be more than happy to sit with you, get with our code officers. We'll pull your file, we'll take a look at it, and we will sit down with you and we'll walk through the process of which it is to get it into compliance. Don't go home tonight being afraid that Putnam County's gonna come take your property.
Ain't
And
gonna
I wish you'd have just called me first. I would have been able to sit down with you and we'd have walked through the process because you sat here all day, and I apologize for that, but I'll be more than happy to sit down and talk to you. You see my name sitting right here in front of me. I'm the county administrator, and I'll be more than happy to sit down with you at any time and walk through the process.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Absolutely. And again,
I think if y'all saw the letter, I'll bring it up and read it to you. It's inflammatory and it's very scary, and I would have had the same reaction that she did
Well,
herself.
they gotta have something that'll make somebody try to get into compliance. Let's be fair about this.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
You know,
And
let's
that is
not
why
throw
we have-
Thomas under the bus here. Thomas
Right,
is doing
right.
one hell
No,
of a
no,
job
no,
in
no.
Putnam County.
No, this letter came from the magistrate. It says, this case came in for a hearing April the 19th regarding the following property. After considering all matters,
I've seen them, Jeff.
okay,
that's a standard letter that comes out after code enforcement here when a respondent is found to be in violation of county ordinance. That's nothing new, which is why we have as many code cases coming back asking for rescission and reduction of fines because they don't follow up like they're supposed to with the
Terry, I
special
appreciate
magistrate.
you saying you'll
So,
meet with her.
but
I
I'll
think
take
that'll
care of
get us
this.
there.
I will.
Okay. Okay, ma'am?
Thank you, I appreciate it very
Okay.
much, thank you.
Thank you.
yeah.
All right, any other public comment on miscellaneous items? Okay, seeing none, we'll close that portion of this meeting. We'll move down to commissioner comments. Commissioner Adams-Act?
I'm all set.
Mr. Turner?
I want to have a real quick discussion on something we touched on earlier. leveling blades. That was very discouraging to me that you didn't even know we really even had any of them. Because before you got here, we had a fight over these things the size of Kansas. We had to get him an extra tractor. We had to hire him 2 extra people to be able to run the tractors, to be able to pull these leveling blades, and they were mainly for the winter time when we weren't mowing solid or whatever. So all I'm asking here is that would you go find the leveling blades? If we need to get you another tractor and another person, the money that we'd save off running them leveling blades when you don't need a grader would pay for that person 5 times over, and a tractor for that person to drive.
Smaller tractor.
Yeah, smaller tractor, just big enough for a leveling blade.
It was a matter of semantics on my part, but they're, I called them box blades, for lack of a better term, on my part, but there's like 5 or 6 of them out there. We do have them there. I didn't call them a leveling blade, I called them a box blade.
Well, that's fine, whatever you, I don't care about what we use as semantics, so just make sure we have them. I think we need to start using them again if we can. I think it is a very viable option. And also, just before you got here, we just bought a brand new sprayer. And we were talking about maybe spraying some ditches and different things, right? It's fixing to be the time of year when that sprayer would be a vital part of our attack on weeds in the ditches. So if we could put some kind of a program together this year to use that sprayer, I'm assuming we still have it. I don't know that we ever even mounted it on a truck.
Yeah, it's still there.
Okay.
And I've got 1 of 2 certifications that I need for that, so.
Okay,
working on
so
the second one.
anyhow, I'd like to try to get back on that again, because I think it'll really help us in our mowing this year if we could do some kind of a chemical after our mowing or whatever. It would,
Preventive growth regulators.
right, it would help a bunch. I believe it really would. So if we could maybe look at the leveling blades as an issue, and like I said, if to make that program work to save the money, if we got a little smaller tractor than what we use on mowers, but it was big enough to run a leveling blade, it could be that we could, with a couple of those tractors to hook to those leveling blades and a couple of people, they could get your 6-week or 7-week turnaround for the graders. You could even get them down to 4 weeks, because if you're doing a lot of the roads with leveling blades, which is washboards, leveling blades work on washboards.
Correct.
It just, when you need the deep holes, that's when you have the other. So anyhow, I'd like to go back to looking at that, if you possibly could, as leveling blades and how we could incorporate them to shorten our times, and also look at that sprayer, because it's fixing to be time of year to use a sprayer right shortly, if not now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You're welcome.
Commissioner Rawls?
Mike, to continue the conversation about the land planes, could you see yourself getting some like 40 to 60 horse tractors that are open cab, a lot more nimble, easier to move around?
We can get costs for that, absolutely.
Would you have a vehicle and a trailer to mobilize them with?
I have vehicles and I do have trailers now. You guys let us purchase trailers last year, and we have
Not
them.
that much money. You can't hardly get anybody to drive a tractor with a cab in today's world. You put them out there, you can't
my wife
get a
does.
farmer to mow, you can't even get a farmer to plow a field anymore without a cab tractor. So
Either way, but I
I understand, and I wanna be as damn frugal as you wanna be, but you're not gonna find anybody. It'll sit in East Black and nobody'll ever drive it. So we need to, I don't know, I think you could use a 60 horse instead of a 100 horse tractor or whatever,
Easily,
and that may be what we need to do, Mike. I don't know, but my thing is, could you just start kinda looking at that, and maybe if it's a viable idea or not?
Yep.
We all think it is.
one of the other things is if you get 40 horsepower or less, you're not gonna need DEF at all at 40 horse. And you don't
Yeah,
need
but
the
you're
diesel.
not gonna have a draft control at 40 horse or less, and you've got to have a draft control to make for a box blade or a leveling blade to make them work. So you're gonna have to get 50, 60 horse to get a draft control, I believe.
Mine goes up and down automatically.
How many horsepower is that?
40, 39.8. They do that for a reason, because when you go over a certain amount, you have to have the diesel particulate filter and the DEF. I know at 40 horsepower, you don't have to have DEF, and that seems to be a problem with a lot of these tractors. I don't know if you've experienced any.
Oh, DF is a huge issue with us.
So the smaller the horsepower, that's that break point. Remember the excavator I was telling you about? The reason I bought that one I bought was it falls below that threshold. I have no particulate filter, and I just had an issue with my personal pickup truck because of that. So maybe that's something, you know, do we need those big 100-horse tractors to pull?
Can you just look into it, Mike?
With 15-foot blades we did, but.
Yeah, how big are the blades?
Oh, the 15-foot bat wings that we got for that we currently have, we needed that bigger
blades.
tractor,
We're
but
just talking about.
box blades, I think
all
they're
the
6
tractor
or, I think they're only
dedicated
6-foot
to
box
the
blades if I remember.
I don't think a 40 horsepower tractor is going to pull
Leveling
them.
blades,
but
sorry.
Can you look into it, Mike? Just look into what the
Getting a
tractors
smaller
will
tractor?
cost? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Then, Boswick, this weekend is a Blueberry Festival.
Yes, sir.
Any idea?
I was up there yesterday. Our mowers were up there, or at least one of the mowers. They were actually mowing West Decoy Road. They were up there picking up trash, and then I saw them. There was another one parked there by the firehouse. I don't know if he
Well, the
was on that
citizens got out there last week and picked up they had, well, I know one person picked up 8 bags of trash. So they said if y'all would mow it now, the trash is all picked up.
I know they were actively mowing when I went down West Decoy Road just to look at some stuff down there. And then there was another tractor sitting right beside the firehouse that had the bat wing on the back of it.
Okay. I saw 2 tractors mowing both sides simultaneously of Comfort Road the other day. Is that normal?
What difference does it make?
I don't know if it's normal or not.
Well, I think my concern is it's you got 2 15-foot bat wings on a small road, and there's really not that much grass out there. The ditch in front of what we have, we take care of, but to me, it seemed like overkill. And this is one of the situations where either a small tractor with a mower or a regular ZTR with a 6-foot deck would have been faster.
Well, my other one deck that you guys authorized was purchased, so it's a 10-foot offset, and it just hasn't arrived yet. So that's typically what we would use for those smaller.
Okay.
And then once we get our inmates, hopefully soon we get the stuff, then they use the 0 turns for us.
Okay. Don't forget Bluebird this weekend.
Okay. Commissioner Harvey?
I have nothing, sir.
Okay. Mike, don't leave. We talked about this, and I think we got to have this conversation. I was hoping to get out of here by 5 o'clock. I don't know if I'm going to make it. But we have an issue of a Class 2 road. Now, think of a Class 2 lane. This is a little over 1 car wide, and the group of citizens that live there found a paving company, and I guess they made an offer to them, and they paved it. Okay. I had a conversation a year and a half ago with one of the residents out there, and we found out there was a Class 2, and we don't pave Class 2s. Well, he was not happy with that. He wanted his road paved. I said, well, just don't pave that road. I said, y'all could probably get together and probably do it cheaper as yourselves, because you would not have to bring it to county standards. Now, I didn't tell anybody to pave this road. I don't have the authority to tell somebody to pave this road. So I had any conversation with this gentleman in a number of months, and then I get a phone call. I believe it was from the lady that was here today. It may not have been, about how do you get a road paved. And next thing I know, they're going to pave it. So we need to start the conversation. Mike, did you bring a letter? Because you've done some research about this. This is not a 66-foot wide road. There's 2 roads that are side by side with a ditch running between them. And they are Class 2s, and I think they actually had millings on them. We've done a little bit of maintenance on them, but now it has some asphalt on it. And to what standards it's to, I have no idea.
I have drafted a letter. Me and Mr. Commando talked about it a little bit over our lunchtime, and they're going to change a few things in it. And then I will get with you, Mr. Pickens, and we'll look at that. But we are looking at options now on what our options are with this. You know, I don't want to say what they are right now, just until we get some stuff worked out. But there has been a letter drafted. I'm going to make some changes to that, and then I'll get with you on potential options and what we got. But
Okay.
yes, just particulars. The lane itself is only 11 foot wide. Why it's a county road, I can't really tell you why. But it was 11 foot, and they paved 11 foot. And they did pave, and it was milled. It was millings that was on the road, And it looks like it's roughly 1.5 inches to 2 inches thick when we went down to look at it. Down at the end, it's, there's issues, because when we do dirt to pave, we look at, we take into account drainage. We take into account some of that other stuff. And so, obviously, that wasn't done in this case, so.
Okay. All right, Mike. Thank you, Commissioner Turner.
The only thing that I'd like to add to that conversation is, number one, has the county been damaged? I understand the lady at the end of the street was damaged by her neighbors paving this road or whatever, but has the county been damaged here by them paving their 11-foot lane that probably shouldn't have never been a county road to start with? So has the county been damaged? If we've been damaged, then we need to go and do something about it, but I don't think we've been damaged. If anything, we reap rewards. The lady down the street was damaged because they didn't take into account, but I think the people who decided to pave this road without a right-of-way permit or without asking permission have probably got a civil suit coming at them. I mean, I don't know that, but I'm assuming that's a civil issue. They went down and damaged another property when they did this. So I just we need to take into account when we're going through this process, has the county actually been damaged or not? I don't know that we got damaged in any way, shape, or form by somebody going in there and paving over top of millings on an 11-foot lane going down a street.
Right.
I don't know the county ever got damaged here.
I agree. I think we need to be as easy as we can, because it's done. There's no sense tearing it up, so.
Absolutely not, yeah, not unless it's damaged the county in some way. Now, if there's something down at the end of the street that can be done, then the people who pave this street need to go together and do whatever's done down at the end of the street.
Okay, all right. Commissioner Harvey, and then Rawls, and I'll close my comments.
And I don't know if we've been damaged or not, but do we assume the liability of a road that wasn't put down to a standard? Because we wouldn't do that with that little book thing, that DOT, and we don't want to use that little book from DOT. But I think there's a lot of questions here that need to be answered, and I don't know if we've been damaged or not.
Commissioner Rawls?
Can we not just give them the road?
Do what?
That's why I wanted Mike to do the research. I mentioned to the person, I said, well, we may just give it back to you, but I can't speak on that. Vacate it back to them, because that probably would have been the process if they came and say, we just like to take this back and pave it ourselves, you know. So we'll have, you'll do that research and come back as soon as you can, if you will.
I mean, what's that one that, back when I first got like Snake Hill? It sounds like a pig trail that you've got that somebody paved.
No, it's not it's a nice lane is what it is.
Milled lane.
But it's only
It's a
11
milled
feet
lane.
wide.
Yeah,
You can't pass two vehicles. You can barely get
you
one.
barely
down
can pass you gotta pull over to the side.
You have to pull overside or not in someone's
there.
driveway.
So my concern is, it doesn't meet our standards to be a Class 2 road. It's just-
I was shocked that it was not a private drive.
If we could just give it to them, it makes it all go away, I believe.
Okay, but you'll come back as soon as you can with
Yes,
that,
sir.
right? Okay. All right, last thing I've got before I turn it over to County Administrator and County Attorney is, I just want to recognize and thank Ms. Sharon Treen with UF and IFAS Agriculture Extension, and Heather Pogue she's the 4-H Youth Development Agent, and then Bobby Watson, 4-H Program Assistant. And they're responsible with their 4-H team for growing these potatoes at the Hastings facility. So everybody got a bag of potatoes. There's some reds in there and some whites, so enjoy those. And we just appreciate everything that Sharon and all her staff does. So, Rich Commando, County Attorney.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I just need to announce that we've been contacted by some attorneys that are doing outside legal work for us, and they've asked that we have an executive session. The morning of May 10th, we'll convene our meeting and then ask to adjourn briefly to have the private meeting to deal with some of the litigation discussion and strategy. That's all.
Okay. All right, County Administrator.
I have none, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Any other further business come before this board?
I was looking at an email that I got. I didn't realize that there's such a severe shortage of, it says microchips, glass, and other parts for computer networking. So I just want to bring that to our attention. If we're looking at buying anything or replacing anything from a computer IT perspective. This is actually somebody from Dell, but from stuff that we're ordering. I didn't realize there was a shortage of computer components.
All right, I was gonna bring that up at our next workshop as an agenda item, maybe to discuss, because we discussed that in the pre-agenda meeting, Monday, about moving, what we moved forward today, but the other stuff appears to is gonna be necessary, so the lead time may be a lot longer than we're figuring, so it might be time that we may have that discussion of maybe approving it in this budget year rather than wait till next budget
That may
year,
be
so.
necessary. I had no idea.
It might just be a necessary thing that we have to do to avoid.
Approve the purchase, but pay for it out of next budget.
Okay, we're gonna have that, I'm gonna have that on the agenda, so. Okay, we stand adjourned.